Hello and welcome, you cheeky monkeys, to a Bergkamp Wonderland, a transfer clickbait bullshit special. Oh dear! As you can see, my disclaimer straight away in my title says, "Like Manuel, I know nothing. All I know is the stuff that we get out of Twitter and the stuff I read from News Now, which is a really good site for going for information. So other than that, everything I say cannot be held against me in a court of law." Talking about people who have often seen in their briefs. Kris, hello.
Hello, Danny. The rumours are not true, and equally everything I say cannot be held against me.
Well, there's been pictures of you running around Plymouth in your briefs.
I've been running around Plymouth. I'm not sure it's in my briefs, but
Bloody hell, that's a goal.
That's the goal, isn't it? Just taking him out my dream team as well. That's ITK for you.
Lovely. And also, only ever seen in other ladies' briefs, it's Captain Krabby Shitbeard himself, Mr. John Welsh.
Hello. Sorry, I'm cleaning my glasses. As you'll see from I'm also IKN. I know nothing. Same as Danny. I'm here representing Jason Davies to make sure that every question he has for Kris Carpenter is answered in a timely fashion. And as honestly as we can get. So
that Welsh bloke he's like herpes. You just can't get rid of the fucker no matter where you go. We even tried to put a wall up in front of him yesterday and he's still got a voice.
Well, he's going to give up on football soon because they've got Ryan Giggs as manager. He won't turn up for any of the away games or any of the friendlies.
Has he met the wives yet? Have they had him in a room together yet? Or surely that's next.
I think someone jokingly said he'd spent more time in someone else's wife than he did the national team.
That's very good.
I don't know whose wife that was, and it's probably a lie. In fact, it's definitely a lie. What am I getting glare from?
Allegedly.
I'm getting glare from somewhere. Anyway, yes. So the players that we're going to cover today is going to be in like the ones I've put inside the avatar, which is going to be the possible departures of Walcott, which, according to the people who know, is going to be off to Everton any day now. The possible move for Sanchez, who, if you believe the people on Twitter, and they do know because they have a reputation to live on with their papers and their clickbait nonsense. He's off to, it looks like, Man United and might be getting Mkhitaryan in return, which will be more Borussia. He was at Borussia Dortmund, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And Shakhtar Donetsk as well.
It's going to be a Borussia Dortmund love-in. Oh, that was a cheeky overhead there. Well, I'm actually watching the Man United Stoke game here, and I'm thinking how Stoke look like some Aussie rules team in that top. Dark blue with orange stripy bits. Yes, Kris, do you want to tell people what Jason Davies has been doing every time in one of our WhatsApp groups you try and ITK it? What does he do?
Which is every time I share anything remotely of something that I think that our good friends might find interesting from the French perspective on things, he I think the technical term is cunts me off. I think that's the polite term.
And he screen grabs it all, and he has a dossier on you of all the stuff you've said.
Yes,
and he
indeed, and he's going to hold me to every single thing ever. So when Arsenal inevitably only sign an 83-year-old goalkeeping coach in January, then my life will be over. So,
well, Eddie Niedzwiecki is going to be out of a job this time tomorrow afternoon because they've got the new manager. They've got the reason why I support Borussia Dortmund. People is what's his name? Paul Lambert, not the one Highlander. Yeah, he's the reason I support Borussia Dortmund because I'm a Celtic fan and he's Scottish and he went to play for Borussia Dortmund in 1997 and won the Champions League.
True story for you. A lady I work with in our temporary accommodations team, her sister is married to Paul Lambert.
There can be only one.
Indeed. I tried to get him on the podcast.
That's Christopher Lambert, and we're 10 minutes in and we still haven't even started.
You need a DM. Can somebody send Thomas H a DM? Oh, I've got to do the Jason Davies obligatory stuff. No, this isn't a radio show. No, this is a podcast. I don't even think Gimli approves of saying hello to anybody.
Does Gimli even know what day of the week it is at the moment? Is he compos mentis or? Bless
him. He's drunk under a tree somewhere, rubbing his leg and screaming. So no, we won't be saying hello to anybody because that takes up half the show, and that is a Davis only thing. Jim Howson's, but he likes Celtic too. My boys Barnet, they have sacked their manager and got a new manager today, bottom of League Two, so that's even more unimportant nonsense that has nothing to do with transfers. Right,
as
so
you can
Kris,
tell, we are as organised as Arsenal's transfer policy tonight.
Blame Danny. Blame Danny.
So Kris,
He-
your friend is coming on at about 9 o'clock. So should we avoid talking about the players that he is going to be talking about until he comes on?
I think it would be a good idea. But should we
Yeah.
talk about? Should we talk about some departures? And we're not going to talk
Yes.
anything about the game yesterday, are we? We're just going to talk
Oh
about.
God, no! No one needs to hear that nonsense. Well, I've made a quick list of we have lost 5 first-team players that have played first-team games from this time last season, and we have Szczesny, 181 games, 10 million quid to Juventus. Should never have gone. Gabriel, 64 games, Valencia, 10 million. Should he have gone?
Yeah. It wasn't a good fit. Good player, but wasn't a good fit.
Eventually, would have been liable for him killing someone. Kieran Green, 230 games for the Arsenal. West Brom, 7 million. That had to happen, didn't it?
Mm.
Yep.
Would you agree that he's shown at West Brom that he's not really up to it?
No, I
think
wouldn't.
Gibbs.
He's been quite good actually, isn't he? for
Against
altogether?
us.
He's one of those classic players that we all thought, oh, there's one of our own that we can bring through, and then Man United at home 3-0 happened, and his career never.
I don't think Gibbs would have been a bad squad player.
No,
I think it was. I think he probably would have stayed, but
he wanted to play, didn't he?
Yeah, because of the people we brought in and stuff, he was going to be so far down the pecking order. It just didn't make sense to keep in, especially when a club was going to be in for him. So, yeah, I think he would have been like a decent backup left back.
Mm.
I don't think. I don't. You know, it's very easy to go. This defender's terrible. This defender's terrible at Arsenal, but there's bigger issues than single players. It's a team thing, isn't it?
I liked him.
He sort of missed his chance when Clichy broke through, didn't he? I think it was going to be then or never, and Clichy sort of took that spot. So yeah.
Have you two heard that the new Arsenal chant to the theme of Only Fools and Horses?
Oh, that was cringe, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's magnificent.
Clever. It was clever, but it's a bit cringe.
Oh,
It's almost as bad as the. Did you hear the Liverpool one?
Yeah, the
The
Firmino one.
Mane from it. I mean, it's clever, but it's cringe, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I mean, that was yesterday. Anyway, so
Happy Invincibles Day, everybody.
yeah, one more year.
One more year.
So if we would have kept Gibbs, and we wouldn't have had the emergence of Ashley Maitland-Niles, would we? So that'd be a sad thing.
Or Ainsley, yeah.
No, his brother. He doesn't play for him. 198 games the Ox played for us, and he scored nearly 1 goal. Liverpool 40 million. I think if we got to look at that, that's a magnificent deal. And he was never going to flourish with us, was he? Because he played in every outfield position. But I think probably every single one, apart from centre back. It's about right, isn't it? So you would think that was a good thing that he left?
I think 40 million, yeah, was the right choice. And also he wanted to play centrally, and it just wasn't going to happen at Arsenal. And I know some people don't like him or whatever, but because of the way he left and the Liverpool game and everything, I don't think he was any worse than any other player we had on that day. I thought we were all terrible, to be honest. And I think it was probably more the manager's fault that he played him against Liverpool when you're the next day going to sell him. But good luck to him. He's gone to a club where he's playing a position he wants to, and at the moment he's doing all right. Scored a goal yesterday. He got 3 goals now for Liverpool. So fair play.
One against the mighty Maribor, one against the mighty Man City. Different ends of the sliding
and
scale.
he got one against Swansea, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well. I mean, I think it was a good deal for all. I think I think, as John says, he will suit the style that Klopp likes to play, and I think that will probably suit him in the long run. For us, it was, we were using him as a fullback, which he was never really a fullback, was he? Which is the worry with AZ Maitland-Niles. We don't want to keep him there for his career because it's not his best position. But no, I mean, 40 million quid for a player that wasn't actually that happy. I think it's fair to say he wanted to move on. We'll come on to players that maybe should have moved on sooner than they have. But
Jim Hudson says, I blame Little Mix for making him leave.
Clearly, it is indeed their problem, yeah.
Yeah. I'm only listing players as I'm just balancing it out. This time last year to now, 5 of these first team players. The last one is Big Frankie Cock, 160 games he played.
God.
I'm surprised he played so many. And it's for 12 million. And I bet if they play him in defensive midfield and say go out and kick people, which you'll get away with in Italy, in Spain. Yeah. So are we sad that he's gone?
Oh, well, I am, obviously.
I am.
John isn't.
No, I don't understand selling him and then not getting
Not
any
replacing.
midfielders. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean the whole. I mean, we're obviously about to talk about now all the transfer stories and who is coming and who isn't, or who we think is coming anyway. And I don't understand why Andrew on Arsenal on his podcast today said, like, why is there no midfielders coming? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not against selling Coquelin. I think it's the right move for him and it's the right move for the club, and we needed an upgrade. But we're down a centre midfielder, an area we're already short on. That is a problem in our squad, and we're not looking to solve it. So it was just a bit of, it was more timing than the actual deal itself was just odd.
I agree with John. I mean, I'm pleased. I'm pleased for Coquelin because I mean, I put a tweet out which actually interestingly got more sort of likes than I expected. As in, a lot more people agreed with what I said. I expect to get a lot of hate, but you know, he was a player that whilst limited, gave 110% every time he put the shirt on. You know, he went out on loan 3 times, 4 times, came back every time. You know, it wasn't his fault that he was thrust into a situation where we were in crisis, which I know is pretty much every game we play now. And I did sort of put on the end of the tweet what could have been Santi-Koch partnership, because that, I know we all hark back to that Man City game, but there was a real suggestion that partnership could have been something really, really special. And obviously it's not Coquelin's fault or Santi's fault that Santi's career is, you know, seemingly coming to an end. And you just wonder what could have been. But I watched his debut for Valencia and he looked very comfortable. He was thrust straight in because they had an injury crisis in midfield, and Kondogbia was suspended, so he went straight into the lineup. And interestingly, I thought Valencia actually played him quite high up in the midfield, much as we had done. The only difference is they asked him to play sort of high in the midfield, but win the ball back and then give it to somebody with more sort of technical prowess. Whereas obviously with us, with us, it wasn't like that. But no, he made a couple of tackles, put himself about a bit. He got subbed with 3 or 4 minutes to go, got good reception. And as John says, you know, it's a good move for him and fair play to him. You know, you could never, ever doubt his commitment for us. The only thing you could probably doubt was the level he's at. And it's a problem position for us because, you know, I do like El Nene as a player, but, you know, it hasn't quite worked for him in the extent that he hasn't really had the consistent amount of time in the squad or in the team to play, and I think his skill set's quite limited. Xhaka the same. I think, you know, yes, he's clearly talented, but we're not using him as we should, and I do think that signing was probably an error given how we've used him. So yeah, and Jack and Aaron seem to be a bit Lampard and Gerrard. So, like John says, it's a very weird. It strikes me as a deal that Arsene Wenger has sanctioned because the player wanted to move on and get game time rather than the club putting their needs first. Do you know what I mean? And that's the worry, trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, so the gist of that lot is in a 12-month spell, we are first team number of games 833 they played between them, which is a hell of a lot. And then we got about £80 million back for them all, and we saved roughly between £300,000 and £350,000 a week. Now, then you balance that out with players that we've brought in from that time last year to now, which is going to be from Christmas last year to now. Kolasinac cost us nothing. Lacazette cost us 47 million. Now, anybody who, you could get a 3-year-old who knows how to count and go, well, 5 first-team players out, 2 first-team players in, of which it doesn't seem like Wenger is a massive fan of Kolasinac because I don't know if it's because he's doesn't trust him playing when we're playing back 4, which it seems to be. I don't know. You can, as the wind changes direction as we go from a back 4 to a back 3 to a back 5, however like that. So, John, do you think that Kolasinac has a future at the club and think it was a good deal getting him out? Are we going to make the most of him as well?
Yeah, no, I think it was a really good signing. I don't agree with Arsene's assessment that he's not a left back because he played left back. Yes, he played more wing back than he did as a left back in a back 4, but he can definitely do it. I do think there is his form dropped off and Ainsley came in and has done quite well. And I do think there is maybe a little bit of, it's his first season here, no winter break, trying to get him through that period and maybe give him a little bit of a rest with a lot of players who come from leagues where they do have, especially the Bundesliga, where I think last year they had like 9 weeks or something. It might have been longer. Like sometimes in the Bundesliga they have a very, very long winter break, but they certainly have the longest compared to all the other leagues. So it might just be that. But yeah, I'm sure he's got a good future. It was a great signing to get on a free as well. It was a really good deal. So yeah, it doesn't worry me at all. I just think it's just a little dip in form, which is normal in the first season, and just a bit of tiredness and adapting to the league.
Kris, what do you reckon?
Yeah, pretty much everything John said. I can't disagree with really. He was in the team of the season for Schalke, Bundesliga team of the season last season for playing as a left back. I get the impression that maybe he's a very heavy set footballer. He's very almost Arsene Wenger like in terms of his stature. I don't want to jinx him, but almost sort of Andre Santos in his henchness. And I wonder if maybe Arsenal's sort of looking at him as a player. The couple of injuries he's picked up this season have been impact injuries, which have taken him a long time to recover. And whereas Arsenal tends to like this sort of intricate, tricky players, Kolasinac sort of strikes me as a guy who's out of puff and he goes for a run for a bit and then comes back and has a recovery and then goes for another run. He's out of puff again. So maybe just likes the athleticism of Ainsley Maitland-Niles over Kolasinac. I do think and again he's been injured. It's not like I don't think he was dropped completely. I think he was rested for one game, then he got an injury and he's not been back since. I think he will come back. It's just a weird one because obviously it seems like Monreal is now a centre back. Obviously he's been injured as well. So I think Kolasinac will be a good signing, and he might be another signing that it will take a little bit more than a season to be 100% convinced by. But no, I think he's still got a future. And like John said, he is a left back. It's just that maybe he's better suited to playing as a wing back. But no, he's fine at left back as well. He just needs to know when to go and when to sit.
Yeah, Monreal had a rough kind of first season, didn't he? And then you look at him now, and he's probably arguably our most reliable defender.
Yeah, agreed.
And we're really missing him quite a lot at the moment. So it happens with all players. It just takes a bit of time. But yeah, shall we move on to the current squad players and who is leaving or not leaving or looks to be anyway?
Yes. Well, that's what I've got down here. The ones we're mainly talking about is going to be Sanchez, Ozil, and Walcott, and possibly Giroud, as I was reading a few tweets earlier today.
Debuchy as
which
well.
one should go first? Oh, and Debuchy. Yeah, forget about Debuchy.
Walcott, I guess.
I think Walcott's a good place to start, isn't it? Yeah. What do you think, John? I mean, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And at this stage, whatever you think of how well he's been utilised and the fact he got 19 goals last season, I thought his last appearance was yesterday, summed him up, didn't it? Offside 3 times, drifted in and out for 10 minutes and then disappeared. It's a move that suits both us and him, surely.
Yeah, I think what is it, 20 million or something they're talking about. Gets a big wage off the books as well, and it's just one of those. It just never worked out for Theo. He's been here a long time and he has done a lot, and he's over 100 goals, isn't he, for the Arsenal? So he's got some. His name will appear a lot, but I don't think he's ever going to go down as like a legend or anything. I think he will end up being regarded as one of those what could have been players, that kind of thing. So it's I think it's good for us. Again, it's as much as he is poor and we need an upgrade, absolutely we do. I don't understand. I mean, it obviously depends on players coming in at the moment, but letting these players go, regardless of the fact that they're not very effective in the squad at the moment, you still have to replace them. So as long as someone comes in, it's fine. If people don't come in, then it then really doesn't make any sense. Yes, long term, it's the good plan because he does have to go eventually and he doesn't really have a future at the club. But you do need to replace them. Even if they're not particularly great players, you still got to have the squad numbers. We've still got a lot of games left this season. And yeah, our form's terrible at the moment and we don't look like we can even win a game, let alone draw ones. But there's still a chance for top 4. We're still, we're 0-0 at half-time in a semi-final of the League Cup, and we're still in the Europa League. So we've still got stuff to play for. At the moment, it looks like we're not going to win anything, but the chance is still there. So you still got to go for it as if we can win.
Yeah, I agree. Danny, have you got thoughts on Theo? I mean, I'm
just looking at his international career. He's not played for England since 2016. He's not scored for England. He's 47 caps. He's not scored since 2015. But in his 47 caps, he's got a hat-trick against Croatia, which arguably ruined his career. because everyone went, "Oh, England hat trick, that's it. You're the new Wayne Rooney, Michael Owen." And after that, he scored goals against Sweden, Scotland, 2 v San Marino, 1 v Estonia. I mean, I could have probably scored all of those goals. Like John was saying, he scored 108 goals in 395 games for us. And then when you go back and look through the record books in 20 years' time, we're talking to the grandkids, and you go, Theo Walcott played nearly 400 games for Arsenal. Who is he? Well, he had one good season once, and he was terrible. It was a terror when it came to the League Cup. I mean, 10 goals in 21 games. But then when you look at the league, 65 in 269, that's nowhere, not even close, good enough for someone who is meant to be a goal scorer. I mean, he's had, like you're saying, a couple of good seasons. He got a 21 in one, he got 19 last season, but it's he doesn't seem to have the confidence that we all need. And we've been saying this, if you go back to the very first Bergkamp podcast we did, was in the summer of 2013. Or was it 12? No, 13. And then the whole time we've just been saying he doesn't seem to have it. Like when he came on against Bournemouth, I looked at it and I thought, who's that? That's bloody Theo Walcott. I didn't recognise him with his straight hair and his big bushy beard. I thought it's been a bloody pitch invasion because he just does not look or act like a footballer. And if he could go to Everton, maybe he'll flourish there because there's not going to be as much pressure on him there. But they just seem to be buying as many players as they can in the hope that some of them are going to score goals. Because how many players have they got that can play either a striker or in the hole behind the strike? I think half their team can play there, can't they? But they do need someone to kind of replace the likes of the young bloke who's gone to Chelsea. I know he is more of an attacking midfielder, yeah. But they do need some young, pacey players who are maybe like for like, because he's English. And maybe that's what they want for it. But they've got to bring someone in because they're flagging there. I think the stat was that Allardyce won the first, went the first 7 games without defeat, and now he's lost the last 4. And so they are going to be desperate for someone. And that's why Giroud was linked to them in the summer as well, wasn't he?
I think I agree. And I think the thing with Theo is that ultimately we'll touch on the players likely to replace him when we speak to Jez a bit later on. But I think the thing with Theo is, unlike Coquelin and the point that John made there about not replacing, we're not using Theo at the moment. So it's not like anybody who comes in is going to be an upgrade because we're not even using Theo. I mean, that's where I do feel for him a bit this season, in that he's not really played at all. And in the Europa League, he has played a few minutes in the Carabao Cup, but he's not really taken those chances and made enough of an impression. I got the impression that Arsene Wenger sort of made it clear from the start of this season that he wouldn't be first choice. He didn't hide that fact, and I think Theo's been credit where credit's due. He did turn down opportunities to move on when he was at his quote unquote peak, and we did get a couple of decent seasons from him. I'll never forget that goal against Newcastle when he sort of fell over and went round people and dinked into the near post. That was a memorable night. But yeah, he's just going to be, I think he'll be remembered as that guy who was the nearly guy. It's not his fault that he got picked for a World Cup squad before he'd ever had a game. It's not his fault that the pressure that was on him at 16 years of age. And that was back in an era when we were signing players with up and coming futures. It could have been so different, but unfortunately, I think probably John would agree, Ross would probably say the same. When he was at Southampton, I think they saw him as a wide player who would eventually be a centre forward, and his runs would be suited as a centre forward in the terms of a striker who could run off the back of people and over the top and finish. And we just never played him in that role, and I don't think Arsene ever really trusted him in that role, and to a degree with good reason, because his finishing has been a bit erratic. But it's just a shame because it's another English player that we all had great hopes for, that ultimately is not going to end up at Arsenal. But as I say, we're replacing him as a bonus because he's a player we're not even using. I would argue Danny Welbeck is the new Theo Walcott in terms of a squad player. So there isn't room for them both, that's for sure.
So I think the consensus here is it's time for him to go, and good luck to him wherever he goes.
Yeah, I'm sure if it is Everton he ends up at, which looks like the likely destination. I think from everything I've read so far and people we've spoken to, it looks like it'd be this week. He'll be gone.
48 hours apparently.
If he goes to Everton, he'll probably have, he'd probably play all right with Rooney. Rooney just sit behind him and knock balls over the top for him. But
Sigurdsson as well, feeding him in behind.
He might do okay. So as much as he frustrates me and annoys the hell out of me, and I've ripped him to pieces on the radio show for however long we've been doing it. I've got no harsh feelings towards him as a person. He annoyed me because he disappeared in games a lot, but then again, he did turn up a lot against Spurs, and I will try and remember the Theo Walcott on the stretcher with the 2-0 and getting the coins thrown at him and everything, and just laughing at the Spurs fans. That's the Theo I would like to remember. Which is always the convenient thing when players leave. You can remember the good bits and ignore the bad ones.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy Wilson today tweeted, Arsenal exploring a boomerang, Malcolm, Mkhitaryan, as Wenger targets 2 in ahead of likely Sanchez to Man United and Walcott, Everton departures. And so, I mean, Jeremy Wilson knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So should we tackle the Chilean?
Oh,
should we briefly draw a line under Debussy as well? So that's going to be
go on. What's happening?
It looks like he's going to go to St Etienne. By the looks of it, he's been in talks with them for the last 48 hours again. Apparently,
didn't you put something in one of the groups that they signed someone this week? Player I heard of
St Etienne.
Yeah.
Yann Villa.
Oh, that was it.
Long Arsenal target, Yann Villa, who played for Sunderland, and Sebastian Frey still waiting his medical, as is Salomon Kalou in the departure lounge. But it looks like Debussy is going to go back to France.
Is it a loan or a free?
Permanent on a free, by the looks of it. I think
he's subsidising his massive wages of 80 grand a week, whatever he's on.
I think that's the main reason we're willing to let him go on a free, to get his wages off the books. I think that's the key. I'm not surprised we're letting him go. Maybe I'm slightly surprised we're doing it in this window, given that he could still be useful in the Europa League. If we, I think he could arguably played those 2 games in Sweden. But then Chambers of Holding have come back in, so you could argue that there's now enough space to have them play instead. But no, I think with Debussy, I know he got a bit of stick and, going on loan to try and get his World Cup place back. I was never on board with the stick he got. He got a very unfortunate injury that was not his fault as a result of Arnautovic's lazy arm into the boards. That kind of ended his career, really. And then he came back, didn't he? And he got another injury on his comeback. And, he's visibly in tears, I think, when that happened. And he was a good solid right back. And it's a shame. I think he could also have done a job like Bakary Sagna, who's still a free agent, by the way. When we moved him into centre back, Debussy was a very good header of the ball. I thought he was somebody we could have transitioned, like we have in Monreal, into a covering centre back. But again, Debussy wants to play. St Etienne have got a hole there. I'm quite surprised we didn't offer him to Bordeaux in terms of the business we might be doing with them shortly. But I mean, that said, they've got enough fullbacks. They got Sabali from PSG, so they probably don't need another fullback now. But I think Debussy's he was never going to be first team for us. I remember that last goal he got for us in the Europa. That was good fun. Or was it in the Carabao? I completely forget now. But it was Europa, wasn't it? Yeah. So I wish him well. And again, I don't like the phrase deadwood, but it is at that stage now where it's another person on 60, 70, 80 grand a week needs to be moved on. So good luck to him.
You look at his career, 4 seasons with us, 30 games, 2 goals, 15 games and 1 goal from the beginning of the 14-15 season when we were straight in as our number 1. But again, if he wouldn't have got injured, we might not have seen the emergence of Bellerin. Which is a good
point, yeah.
The one thing I'd say to agree with Kris on, I do find it a little bit odd that it's happening now or not the summer, because if Bellerin gets an injury, we don't have a right back. Ainsley Maitland-Niles can play there.
We'd play Reece Nelson there, wouldn't we? I would guess. Or
Ainsley Maitland-Niles can obviously play there. He's right-footed. It would make more sense to play him as a right wing back than it would a left wing back. But yeah,
it's probably why we're bringing in Mkhitaryan to play right back, I would imagine.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. So the next one we're going to go to, shall we do Sanchez next?
Yeah, let's do Alexis.
Can't really keep it anymore, can we?
No. First of all, do you think he's going to go to the blue side or the red side? I was watching. Did you watch before the start of the Man United Stoke game? There was Gary Neville and Graham Kavanagh. That was a Middlesbrough Irish player.
Oh, that's a finish.
Oh, another goal. Yeah, they were saying that Jamie Carragher, they had like a list up, and it was saying Man City are going to offer 20 million and nothing to the agent, and 240,000 a week. Man United are going to offer 35 million, 5 million to the agent, and 350 grand a week. And Gary Neville was going, well, there's no decision to be made, is there? Man City are refusing to pay the money that they want. Why would Arsenal accept anything less? And quite frankly, I'd rather he did go to Man United, because they're just a disaster waiting to happen, and they don't even play decent football. And I don't want him to go to Man City and end up winning the title. But there again, he could do what a Rodney Marsh at Man City, and the entire team, a million points clear, fall apart. But I don't really care which one he goes to. I mean, it's an absolute shame, because you look at the amount of goals and games, and his record is just absolutely stunning. I did have it here, but I've where is it? Oh, there we go, Sanchez. He's still only 29 years old. He's not 30 until December, which means he's actually 31 now. I think that's how it works. Entire career, because he's not played up front most of the time, has he? He played out wide for a while, and then he was an emergency striker, and then he was playing really well. 80 goals in 165 games. Wow, John.
That's quite good.
That sums it up.
No, the whole thing is so annoying. We all knew he was going to leave. It was clear in the summer, before the season started. I didn't want to sell him unless PSG or someone outside the Premier League came in for him. That was the only reason I would have sold him. I wouldn't have sold him to another Premier League club. Yes, obviously he's going to go now, but you could have gone back then. If you're looking back at it, he's he can go on a free next summer. I was like, that's fine. It's better to have him for a year than the money we're getting if we're just going to sell him to a Premier League rival, because everyone knew Man City were going to be better this season, but no one knew they were going to be like this much better. If I had a choice, if I got to choose where he went, I would let him go to City. Again, quoting Arsblog here, I couldn't give a monkey's about the 10 million or 15 million pounds difference. And to be honest, in football terms now, that's not really that huge. Selling him to City, a team that's basically already won the league. Yes, I know they lost to Liverpool yesterday. It doesn't matter. They've won the league. Everyone knows that. They'll use him maybe in the Champions League. Maybe it gives them a better chance there. Fine, whatever. We're not in it. I don't care who wins the Champions League. I couldn't give a toss, to be honest. That to me is fine. They're a team that are so far ahead of us in terms of their squad and what the manager's doing and just what they're doing as a club, and obviously all the money they've got and everything else. That we're way behind, and we're so far off competing with them that really giving them Sanchez makes no difference. He's a player coming towards the end of his career. He's 30 or about to be 30, and maybe he plays on for another 2-3 years. I don't know. If you send him to Man United, okay, we get a bit more money. His agent gets more money. Sanchez gets more money. But you're sending him to a team that we're in much closer competition with than we are with City at the moment. And also, it's fucking Man United. Like, I know people now don't like Man City because they've got money and everything else, but that doesn't really bother me that much. I absolutely despise Man United. They are the closest thing for me as an Arsenal fan to Tottenham in terms of hatred. If you're an Arsenal fan from, I don't know, years past, maybe it's Liverpool because of their dominance or whatever. But that rivalry we had with Man United, I absolutely despise them. I can't stand. And seeing him in a Man United shirt, I mean, seeing him in any other Premier League shirt is going to be painful enough as it is. But seeing him in a Man United shirt would really, really upset me, and I couldn't stomach it. I read some story about City maybe matching his wage demands or matching the wage offer that Man United have put in. I got no idea. And Nketiah's just scored. Sorry, you're watching the Man United game. Me and Dave are watching the Arsenal under-23s.
What's the score? Is it 1-0?
It's 3-0.
3.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
No, Nketiah scored 2. 3.
Yeah, Nketiah scored an own goal.
Yeah, I didn't think of the logistics of that.
The weird thing for me about this whole story about United, and they've obviously come in and the way it's been quoted, blasted City out of the water, which is bollocks. They've just offered the agent and Sanchez more money. I don't get the Mkhitaryan part of it. That to me, again, if it's true, and it sounds like it is, screams of Mourinho doesn't want Mkhitaryan. United want a player who is, what is he on, 280 grand a week or something stupid at United, isn't he?
I think
Something along
someone
those
said it
lines.
was the best part of 300
Yeah,
because
it's an absurd amount of money.
become a highest earner.
Yeah. If he came to Arsenal as part of the deal, one, he'd have to take a wage cut. So I'd imagine United are going to pay some, thing off. But the talk is that he'd be instantly our highest earner, which I don't, that for me, if anyone's going to be the highest earner at the club after Sanchez leaves, it should be Özil. But then again, that's another player who might be leaving. I'm not sure Arsenal particularly wants him. Now, as a fan, some fans are going to go, I don't care what Arsenal wants. I get that at the moment. I understand people's frustration. But it doesn't make sense, us taking Martial. It makes sense for United. They get rid of, sorry, not Martial, Mkhitaryan. Makes sense for them. They get Alexis for less money. So they've put less output. And they've got rid of a player that they don't want.
We're doing them a
Huge
favour.
wage, off the books. And if we get him, and say Özil doesn't leave this month, this window, and we've got until at least the end of the season, how are you going to get Mkhitaryan and Mesut Ozil in the team together? You've also just brought in a guy who's, let's be honest, flopped at United. That may be Jose Mourinho's fault. It may not be the player's fault. That's to be seen. But he's going to come in and be the highest earner at the club. What on earth is that in terms of transfer policy? I do not understand it whatsoever. And I'm not dissing Mkhitaryan, because when he was at Dortmund, he was a beautiful player and he's amazing. And I'm no doubt that Sven Mislintat has probably said to the board or Arsenal, whatever, look, I know Mkhitaryan, he's an amazing player, and maybe it's just Mourinho or being in Manchester or whatever it is, and it's not working out for him. But it doesn't. There's no like joined up thinking in that transfer for me. So I don't get it.
In a week or so.
It's weird. Kris, I mean, like, I think you're kind of of the same opinion. It's nothing against the player. I really like Mkhitaryan. I think he's great, but I don't understand what would be the point in going, yeah, we'll take money in Mkhitaryan. Like you've got to replace Sanchez, obviously. That regardless of where he goes or what the deal is, someone has got to come in and replace. Yeah, I mean, Dave's made a really good point, and I said this earlier, and maybe it's that. Maybe Mkhitaryan is coming in, and he's coming in now. Maybe we do keep Özil for the rest of the season, but he does leave in the summer, so he's Özil's replacement. We've just got him 6 months early. That I can see. That makes sense. Yeah. You bed him in, get him comfortable. Oh, 4-0. Oh, Eddie again. Good lad. We stick him up front. But you're still going to have this issue of Mkhitaryan and Özil until the end of the season, and also the ridiculous wages. So it's just, the whole thing is really bizarre. And like, with hindsight's 2020, and it's so much easier to see now. It kind of looks like now it would have been like, if we just sold him to City in the summer for, what was it, 60 million or whatever before the season started, that we could have just been without all this mess. And maybe we would have got Lamar or something, But
I'm gonna have to be quiet a minute. My mum's ringing me, so you don't just talk on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. I don't get it. I still think the better deal for us is to sell him to City. I think people are calling Sanchez a snake and everything because he might take the money. Look, he wants to leave the club, and he wants to try and win things. And at the moment, United look more likely to do it than we do. I agree. If you really, really want to win things, you go to Man City. But if he goes for the money, he goes for the money. I couldn't care less. I'm not going to dig the guy out. He's done amazing things since he's been at the club. I just think it makes more sense for us to sell him to City. I don't know about you, Kris.
I do. I wanted to pick up on your Mkhitaryan point, because I've been thinking about this. There's so much going on. Obviously, we'll talk about the other interesting name in the frame here in a bit. But if Mkhitaryan did come in, there's a few things that don't check the boxes for me. One is the Raiola connection. I'd be surprised if we got into bed with him, although, much as Steve said before, I think there comes a point where you have to kind of just say, well, we got no choice now. There's so many super agents now. Jorge Mendes, Mina Raiola, what's the other one? Jarabchin. Unfortunately, there's so many players now that are under these super agents. Eventually, you're just going to have to go, well, we're going to have to deal with them. Yeah. So that would surprise me slightly, but maybe I can see past that. The only thing I'm wondering on Mkhitaryan, and it's a completely left field idea. When we signed Santi Cazorla, he was a wide midfield player at Malaga. Sort of a Juan Mata type of player who, he wasn't a winger, but he played wide of a 3 or a 4 in midfield. He'd create and, he'd get up and down the line. Mkhitaryan, when he was at Dortmund, predominantly played in that 10 role, linking the play. But he did like to pick up the ball from deep and come forward with it and pick passes and make runs from deep. I wonder if maybe there's an idea of transitioning him into the Santi Cazorla role. I do wonder. It would be a really left field idea, and it would be something I don't think anyone really would have seen coming, but it does sort of strike me as the sort of thing Arsenal would have a look at. And the main reason I think that is that technically Mkhitaryan's very similar to Santi Cazorla in that he's got, he plays with either foot, very, very low centre of gravity and ability to turn away from players. Very, very rarely gives up the ball. And his build would be suited to that role if you could get somebody alongside him who'd win tackles, which I think, credit where credit's due, Jack Wilshere's done a really good job since he's come back into the side of doing. It also allows you to maybe play a 3. You could arguably play him with Wilshere and Ramsey. Yeah. Or maybe even putting Xhaka alongside Mkhitaryan and saying, right, Xhaka will do the destroying and Mkhitaryan will do the build-up play. I've got nothing to support that claim. I just wonder if maybe that's possibly something they would think about doing. But I don't know.
The whole thing of it just screams to me more United end
trying
up
to get him rid of him.
You're right. They end up with Sanchez. They've got rid of a player they don't want. Yes, we get a player who, once Özil is gone, if he does go and everything, and looks like it, maybe he becomes the Özil, and like Kris says, maybe do play 3-man midfield, and our number 10 is a little bit more of a, not box to box, but he helps out a little bit more. And again, I'm not digging out Özil; he's just a different style of player to Mkhitaryan. So I think Dave's right in that he put, maybe it is a bit of future proofing in that sense. But yeah, it just kind of screams of, can we not, try and stitch United up a little bit and get like Anthony Martial or someone? Or
well, there's a bit of breaking news this evening that Steve just alerted me to. James Robson, who I must admit I'd never heard of, apparently he's a Manchester City editor and a United correspondent for the Manchester Evening News, has just tweeted that Manchester City have officially pulled out of the Sanchez deal, and now that Chelsea are going to make a late bid. How do we feel about that? I think I'd feel even more throw up in my mouth if it was Chelsea.
I
think that would be even worse.
That, John, Josh wants to know which one of the transfers are you going to Jonah? The Sanchez or the Özil, I think it is.
Josh might be bringing that up, but this is completely off football, and Kris is going to get annoyed now. It's because of the NFL and the Saints throwing away the game in the last second. Because I Jonah the shit out of every team I support, so I apologise, all Arsenal fans. Any team I follow and I watch the game, they always fuck it up regardless. So which one of the transfers am I going to Jonah? I'd probably Mkhitaryan, because I already said I think he's a bit too lightweight maybe for the Prem, but who fucking knows?
Should we be worried about the fact that 3 of the biggest teams in the league, Man City, Man United and Chelsea, all want one of our players? Why the fuck don't we keep hold of him?
He's on a free, isn't he? I mean,
he's on a free.
They'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, I don't think at this point there's no reason to not sell him. Maybe I'm still iffy on that. I think because the way we're like, if we weren't in such bad form, I would say just keep him and let him go for nothing in the summer, kind of thing. Because because he could help us win for something. But he's poor. His form's poor. He's not playing well. He's improved a little bit over the last couple of games, but he really doesn't want to be here. Clearly, did probably want to go in the summer. And I don't. There's no benefit to keeping him now. And the squad needs something. If we're going to get anything out of this season, the squad needs something. I'm not saying that a load of new signings are going to come in and suddenly turn our season around. But if we get somebody who's going to create or score goals or something, or just a little bit of spark and get fans happy again, maybe we can win the League Cup, or maybe get somewhere in the Europa League, that kind of thing. I don't want to send him to Chelsea either. The fact that City have pulled out, that's really disappointing.
If that's true, I mean, I say it's just.
It wouldn't surprise me. Chelsea want, like, Conte's screaming for a striker. you know, there was a story the other day about Andy Carroll. Like he's desperate. He wants someone to come in, and there's also the fact that I think Chelsea know that the likelihood of Hazard being there much longer is very slim, and that Real Madrid are circling at the moment. So, who's a kind of guy who you can play as a second striker off a big man like Conte likes to play?
Walcott.
Alexis is probably the closest player in those terms, in terms of quality and ability and everything around the league to Hazard, I guess. So it makes sense from that.
Quite an upgrade on Andy Carroll.
Can we do a straight swap for Hazard?
On Andy Carroll, yeah. Straight swap for Hazard, yeah. I don't think that's happening somehow.
Saddened by that.
See, and this is the point where it makes you sick. If City pull out, and I didn't have any issue, but I was like, yeah, just tell him City is fine. If he goes to United or Chelsea, that's just, it's horrible. I don't, it's making me fucking miserable, Danny.
It's making everybody miserable. Yet again, we've got a star player and he's going to be going. You never see the other teams with their star players, any of those big three, their star players going.
We're not
rivals, do you?
I mean, we have to accept that he's going regardless, and he's going to go to a Premier League team unless PSG suddenly came in with a really late bid, because he's going to go where the money is, and it's in the Premier League.
For Cavani.
We were damned if we did and damned if we didn't with Sanchez. The only thing I would say to that is that we put ourselves in that position, didn't we? We were, if we'd have tied the contract up early, we wouldn't have been in this situation in the first place. But having been in the situation, we then couldn't win. If we kept a player, we were keeping an unhappy player, and if we didn't get him out, losing wages. I think people's opinions would be very different if we were second in the table and still in the FA Cup. And I think there's an element of, the house is burning, so let's pour petrol on it at the moment, and that's kind of why people are upset. Like you said, John, I don't blame the player. I've said all the way through this, Sanchez is our one, arguably, of two world-class players.
Yeah.
And losing him is a massive blow, whatever way you look at it. Yes, is he a prick? I'm sure he is a prick. But I just think at some point there's so many world-class players. Lionel Messi's a prick. Nobody moans about him, do they?
No.
So
he's lovable.
He's, Alexis Sanchez is a winner. It's as simple as that. He is a winner, and we're going to have a great difficulty in replacing him. The one thing I think John and I both agree on is that if we're going to sign different players, which we'll come on to, it's not just the players we sign, it's the system we're playing them in. The system we're playing in at the moment isn't getting the best out of the players we've got. And until that changes, we're going to struggle. And I'd actually quite like to see us adopt the Liverpool mentality at this stage. I don't actually think we're
defending. We nearly have.
Well, kind of. But I actually don't think we're that bad defensively. But I think, as John has said on a number of occasions, and Steve and a few of the other crew, I don't think the defenders are getting the coaching they should be. But that's not going to change while Arsenal's there, because he doesn't particularly enjoy that defensive side of the game. So let's play to our strengths. Let's go out and try and beat teams up and outscore teams. But at the moment,
did that when he had Ili Dumitrescu and all of that lot, and he was playing.
For a while. The one thing I would say is, if you've got a forward line, of Lacazette, who everyone refuses to pass to or give him anything to chew on, along with Iwobi, Welbeck, and Walcott on the bench, and that's not going to scare anybody. I looked at our team yesterday and I thought, Pirates would have a game against this lot. I mean, we just didn't look. We didn't look scary, and I love Danny Welbeck's work rate, but did anyone back him to score when he was through on goal? No.
But he has looked good. He has looked tough. But the other thing we've got to consider, not only we're strengthening our major opponents, B, we're going to end up with a player that we don't want. But I think one of the most important things is, apart from weakening our team, is what it's going to do for the team morale. When you got the likes of all these players. I wrote the list here of all the ones where their contract is going to be up next summer. Ramsey, Walcott, Giroud, Welbeck, Monreal, Cech, Ospina, Debuchy. Now, some of them might be gone before them. But all of their, and like Wilshire's is up this summer. And if you want to keep those players at the club, they're going to go, well, you've just got rid of Sanchez. It looks like Ozil might go. We've got other players in that don't fit the system. No one knows what the manager's going to do. The owner doesn't give a shit. And you just think, this is just adding, like you were saying, more fuel to the fire of discontent among the supporter base, amongst the fans who don't go to games, and more importantly, the players. I mean, they've got to be thinking, oh, well, why are we letting our best player go? Well, if the best player's going, what the hell am I doing here? I could go elsewhere. What's the point in having loyalty if the club doesn't seem to have the sense or the loyalty to our best players? And Sanchez is still, if he stayed with us and signed a new contract, he still could give us 3 or 4 really good years, as could Ozil. And that's the bit that annoys me.
Should we talk about the man who Danny can't pronounce, who me and Kris think anyway is the statement signing?
When's your friend joining us, Kris?
I'm just about to invite him in, so shortly.
Okay.
Can you give us a
carry on.
countdown?
Well,
I'm just
John, carry on.
I was going
send him a DM. So.
I was going to say about your favourite, Danny, a boomerang.
Pierre.
Yeah, Pierre. Yeah. Yes, already in the chat box. There we go. A boomerang, boy.
A boomerang.
So this is even more bizarre than the Mkhitaryan thing. We've kind of reasoned Mkhitaryan out, so it does make sense. A boomerang.
Off to another Dortmund ex-Dortmund player.
Yeah,
Aubameyang,
I do not get at all. Now, when this story first came out, we were all kind of talking about it, and I was like, what on earth? I was like, oh, this is like just some nonsense, ignore it. And it's like in 24 hours, 48 hours, really picked up pace, and all of a sudden it looks like it might actually happen. Again, a player who Dortmund don't want, and he's been horrible this season, kicked up loads of fuss and
he's still scoring goals though, isn't he?
Oh yeah, but he's been like doesn't turn up for training and disagreeing with the manager and sporting director and everything else. So he's been a real pain in the arse. I'm not saying that he's always going to be at every club he goes to, but it's just one of those things.
He's got 21 in 23 this season.
Still a very good player. What I don't get, and I'm not saying I don't like Aubameyang. He's a wonderful footballer. He's great and he scores goals. He's quick, he's athletic, and all the good things. Why are we buying a striker for reportedly around, 50 million? I think 60 million euros. So yeah, 50 million quid for basically the same price we just paid for Lacazette. I don't get it. And it's not like we're buying someone who is 25 or 21 or 18. He's 28, 29?
29.
I don't get it, and like Dave's saying, I was saying this earlier as well. Me and Holick are on like psychic wavelengths tonight.
28. He'll be 29 in June.
28. Okay.
Means he's actually 30.
If we sign a Aubameyang, hello, Olivier Giroud. I guess you're leaving. See you later, pal. Or are you gonna sit on the bench for 6 months because you're not getting a game? And also, where the fuck is he gonna play? Is this a Sven signing or is this a Wenger signing? I mean, that confuses me. You'd guess it's a Sven signing because he's a Dortmund player, but we know Arsenal's looked at Aubameyang before and liked him and tried to buy him in the past, so it could be an Arsenal signing. But if you're Lacazette,
money worries me as well.
Okay, let's say we get him, and he comes in, he's going to be on big wages and whatever else. He's 28 years old. We get him. Next week, training, Lacazette's there. Aubameyang walks in. Why have you just spent 50 million on this bloke? I'm the striker. You just spent all that money on. I'm not getting any service at the moment. It's what? Why are you bringing in this guy? Am I not going to play up front anymore? Giroud's in the mirror looking at his beard and checking his bum out and doing that pose he does, and then going, "Who the fuck's this bloke? What?
Practicing his scorpion kicks."
I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Are we going to suddenly play 2 up front? Of course we're not. Okay, so what does that mean? Aubameyang's being bought for 50 million quid to play left wing? Or Lacazette's going to go and play left wing? Because he won't be happy about it. Aubameyang don't want to play left wing. He wants to play as a centre forward. What on earth is that deal? That, to me, screams, oh, we're losing Alexis. We need to make a statement signing. I really do not. I don't understand it. And again, this is not digging out the player at all. Aubameyang is amazing, and I agree. No limit summer. They can play with each other. They definitely can. One of them could play on the left as well. I agree. They could do that. Neither of them want to do that. That doesn't. It is stupid to do that. They're 2 very, very good strikers. I'd love to see us play with 2 strikers. I think it'd be amazing. And I tell you what, if you had them 2 up front, they would rip teams to pieces. But do you really think Arsene Wenger is going to do that? No way. How many teams in the Premier League play with 2 strikers up front? It doesn't happen. And he's like, it's like no joined-up thinking at all in the club.
You're going to get an
do.
attack of Bell's palsy in a minute, John, if you don't calm down.
Oh, it's so confused. I'm so confused. I've been doing all this stuff like all this week and last week and whatever. So I haven't been like in the WhatsApp group getting all the jokes and transfer news and whatever. So I get in like 10 minutes and I'm reading through all the messages. What the fuck is going on? Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, what? Okay, oh, Alexis is going. Okay, yeah, I understand. Walcott's going. Wait a minute, we're getting 2 strikers, so Giroud must be leaving. Where's Giroud going? Can anyone please, Kris, please explain?
Well, I'd like to, Danny, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring in our guest at this point because
Yes.
we've brought him on for his knowledge of Liga and particularly one player we'll bring up in a second. But evening, Jez, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm all right, thank you. For those of you who don't know, Jez is part of the French Football Weekly crew that I try and keep in order each week, and I often call him Rich, so I'm going to try and call him by his correct name this evening. Jez, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is seemingly the talk of the town as far as Arsenal goes, as well as certain Bordeaux forward we'll come on to in a minute. But what did you make of his career trajectory? Because he started in France, which a lot of people may or may not know, at St Etienne. And in amongst the sparkly boots and various strange choice of garish attire, he did a good job in France, didn't he, to make that move to Dortmund? But have you got any concerns over, if this move happens, his supposed attitude issues? Was there any sign of that when he was in France?
Not really. I mean, apart from the whole sort of bling thing with the boots and the different hairstyles or shavings into the head, but he was still sort of on the way up when he was at Saint Etienne. I mean, you said he started there. It was actually sort of his 3rd or 4th club. He sort of started at Milan and then was loaned to various clubs, including Monaco. And it was at Saint Etienne that it sort of clicked. And I mean, to be fair to him, until now his trajectory has pretty much been one way. It's been all the way up. And yeah, it was at Saint Etienne that he really sort of began making a name for himself, decent scoring record, won his first trophy with the Coupe de la Ligue. Actually put Paris PSG to the sword a couple of times, even though it was sort of quite early in the whole Qatar project. So yeah, at the time there wasn't really, I don't think, any bad attitude because he was still on his way to becoming a big name. Certainly, sort of being suspended 3 times recently from Dortmund for his attitude isn't so great. And while I still think he's a very good player, he's 28 now. He's made so much fuss the last couple of years, I think, about wanting to go to Real. I don't know if he's gonna, to be fair, do a bit of a Sanchez and mix the really good results with the sulking that he's not somewhere that he thinks is bigger than Arsenal, that he'd rather be there.
That's the worry. That's the worry I have. When he was at St Etienne, and people quite like, as yourself, Jez, quite rightly pointing out to me, didn't start there as a slip of the tongue. As far as made his name, I guess would be a better phrase at St Etienne. But was he when he played at St Etienne? What sort of system and what sort of formation did he suit? Because he's been known at Dortmund as a number 9, as an out-and-out centre forward. Do you think, let's say for argument's sake, he does arrive at Arsenal, whether it be a statement signing or not, how does this affect Alexandre Lacazette, who you and I both have a lot of affection for his Lyon days? He's struggling at the moment for confidence. He looks a different player than the Lyon Lacazette at the moment because he's not getting fakired, if you will. He's not getting those through balls. He's not playing in a system that suits his attributes. Does Aubameyang coming in, does that shift Lacazette to a wide role, or does that mean Aubameyang reverts to a wide role if he is a player that comes in, do you think?
I mean, he's well, they both are. They're versatile. They can pretty much play anywhere across maybe a 3-man front line. I'm not sure either of them could sort of class themselves as out and out wingers, but they could both play on sort of the wide parts of a front 3. It's just that at Dortmund he has been the main man. He's been playing down the centre, and his attitude, and to be fair, the sort of status that he's reached now suggests that if he wants to play down the middle, you'd kind of think that he's going to get his way. Lacazette hasn't yet totally established himself at Arsenal. I'm not sure Wenger entirely trusts him yet. So given the choice between the two, I mean, you'd assume that if he did come, he'd come with guarantees that that's where he'd be starting. So yeah, my concern is that it would be Lacazette who'd be shifted. I do think they're capable of playing together up front, but they are sort of similar. Aubameyang, when he was at Saint-Etienne, I think he combined quite well with Brandao, who was basically just a big lump. I mean, sort of limited in terms of football skills, but he was sort of a poorer version of Giroud. He's got a certain skill set, and he'll forever be in a lot of our hearts for headbutting Thiago Motta. But apart from that, yeah, he didn't have that many attributes, but he was a good foil for Aubameyang. I'm not sure Lacazette would work in that way because they're very similar players. Because they're both skillful, talented, intelligent players, I think they could find a way to work together, but there could also be a bit of a clash of egos there.
Yeah, that is the worry. Yeah, Danny, have you got anything you want to touch on Aubameyang before we speak about Malcolm? Because that's obviously the one that a lot of people are asking Jazz about. Anything you want to add on Aubameyang other than the fact you can't say his name?
Well, I'm pleased that everybody is referring to him as the boomerang, which is really, really good. Stefan, who runs our FIFA, he says we do need a boomerang. It's someone to come on for Lacazette after 70 minutes every game, so that's a good idea. But I've been a fan of Dortmund for years, and I remember when he was when Boomerang was at St Etienne, and was it the last day of the season, the last kick of the game where they won the league, and it was all over. There was like 2 or 3 teams that could have won the league. Was it that season? Or was that the Eden Hazard season?
I think that was the Hazard season. Yeah, Hazard at Lille you're thinking of, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I know there was one of them like that. But I'm just looking at the transfer market. It says he's right-footed, which is good because we've got nearly all of our players are left-footed. But his main position is up front, but he can play on either of the wings, like you two were just discussing. So I don't think you can have someone with the out-and-out strikers, ego players like he is. I mean, you can tell by his haircut that he's a bit of a tit. He'll be our very own.
I'm saying nothing at this point.
He'll be our very own Pogba, and I don't think that's the kind of player that will go down well with Wenger because he doesn't like players to be overly individual like that. I mean, we might as well get him. It's not our money, is it? If Lacazette hasn't scored now for about 5 or 6 games, then I'd play Lacazette 90 minutes week in, week out forever because eventually he will sort it out if you give him the bloody ball and let him do what he's good. And don't expect him to make darting runs down and then take the play. He's not Nicolas Anelka, people. So I might as well bring him because. But wasn't it this time last year that he was looking for a move to Real Madrid, and it was only a matter of time until he went there and he had the big.
That's what Jez was saying about. Because he said that it's his dream to play. Because is his father or his mother's Spanish, and said that they had dreams of him playing there. And he was heavily linked with PSG before Neymar popped up. That was all pretty much done, according to a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, it didn't happen. So it's I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one, but
it'd be fun. You might as well.
Yeah, I mean, like John says, it reeks of statement, doesn't it?
I think that's 100% what it is. They're just going, Sanchez is leaving. He's the biggest player at the club, the most talented and skillful and flair player. We need someone to replace him. Who can we get that we can get for similar amount of money? It's just the whole thing's just silly. And if it does mean we shit on Giroud, I won't be happy with that either because he's not only is Giroud a plan B, but he stayed at the club when he could have left. He could have gone in the summer, didn't he? But his wife said that she didn't want to go and go to Everton because she'll get her car nicked.
Yeah. Just before we come on to Malcolm, just a quick bit of breaking news. Dating news? No, breaking news.
Still single, ladies.
Is it the Ornstein?
Yes, Orny alert. Everybody's Orny. David Ornstein, famous Arsenal journalist, close to man.
The only one who knows what's really going on.
Yeah, it looks a lot like R5, I might add. Man City pull out of the race to sign Alexis Sanchez from Arsenal based on current numbers demanded by AFC plus AS. Alexis Sanchez. Manchester City FC believe they were first choice, but the Man United offering package higher than City would have paid in $60 million deal last summer. Twist City think Chelsea are rivaling Man United. So that's a thing. But that reports again about a player that we've all accepted is going to go. It's just a matter of where to. Jez, let's come back to you and talk Brazilian. Lots of talk in and around the past week or so about Bordeaux's highly rated wide man Malcolm, who does not play in the middle before anyone makes that joke.
I still maintain I was the first person in this country to make that joke.
I'm going to go with that because I do remember when you first brought it out, so I'm going to give you credit for that.
And Lamar, if there's any justice in the world.
Yes, thank you. Neil picked up on that one in our other group. There's
the ones we were doing about that singer who died earlier today. What those two tits were covering that with. That was cruel.
No, that's probably libelous as well, so we won't go there.
We were being sad. That's all we were being.
Anyway, back to Malcolm. There's reports, Jez, I tweeted a short time ago based upon the information I picked up on, which is coming out of France, that Bordeaux are reluctantly willing to accept the 46 million euros is apparently what Arsenal have put on the table. It looks like a Sven Mislintat deal rather than an Arsene Wenger deal, in that he was trying to get him out of Bordeaux last summer when Dortmund were in for him when he was at Dortmund. I guess the first question to you is if it happens, and we have to stress at this point, it is still if, but it seems like it's quite far down the road. First question to you really is, what sort of player are Arsenal potentially getting, and how quickly do you think he will adapt? How robust is he? How much of a sort of settling in period do you think we might need if he does indeed arrive?
I think in terms of that part of the question, possibly a January signing is pretty good, because it kind of gives him 6 months to acclimatise, and then you'd hope kind of hit the ground running for the beginning of next season. He's a potentially match-winning bat. He was signed very young by Bordeaux. I think he's 20 now. He's been there, I think, around 2 years. So I guess 18. And yeah, he plays mainly on the right, but he can play in the middle. He's left-footed, so he's very comfortable playing on the left. I think actually when he was still in Brazil, he played more on the left. Certainly, the early part of this season, he proved sort of week in, week out that he can. Is on his own, and he pretty much did that a few times, then certainly be the difference maker. In terms of robustness, that's one of the areas that I'd be a bit concerned about. He's only about 5'7", so he's not the tallest guy. Low centre of gravity. He's relatively stocky, but he does get pushed off the ball quite easily. The thing is, he's a Brazilian winger. Is he being pushed off the ball easily because he wants to be? That's the question. I think that he could be a Remy Cabella type who never sort of muscled up enough and didn't manage to hack it in England. But I think he is a special player, and if he wanted to, I think he could sort of become a bit stronger, get on the weights or whatever, and be a real talent here. But one of the other weaknesses, I guess, is his sort of defensive work, which I think there's a bit less emphasis on that in France for the attacking players. In England, you'd expect him to trap back and do his bit to help out the fullbacks. So I think that's another bit he'd have to work on.
Not at Arsenal, Jez. We don't do defending. It'll be fine.
I was just about to say that
as well. But yeah, I mean, he's got all the skills. I'd say, I don't know if I'm on dangerous ground here. I'd say he's sort of a typical Arsenal signing in that, 1 week he can be, as I said, brilliant, score some fantastic goals, set up a couple, and then he'll go missing for the next 6 weeks or so. That's the problem. With Bordeaux this year, they were, until sort of September time, they got schmeissed 6-2 by PSG. Until then, they were sort of right up there, top 3. And their season has plummeted since then. And at that point, he had, I think he already had maybe 5 goals, 4 assists. Since then, he scored a couple of goals. And then this weekend, which was Bordeaux's first win for quite a while. He set up the winner with a fantastic move, sort of took the ball wide on the right, sort of teased the defender a bit, a sudden turn of speed to leave the defender for dead, and then a fantastic cross, which a bit messy. People would have been raving about it on Twitter today. Just a brilliant cross sort of to the far post where Laborde had sort of crept in to finish. This is sort of the good side and the bad side of Malcolm. That when he doesn't play well, Bordeaux don't play well. When he plays well, but he went sort of, I think he had a couple of injury niggles, but he went 9-10 matches not doing much, and Bordeaux plummeted. It shows the ability that he's got, but it also shows that either he's not doing it week in, week out, or maybe in his defence he hasn't got the team, enough of a team behind him in Bordeaux to do that. Whether Arsenal can help him to show that more often, I guess remains to be seen. But I do think there's a hell of a lot of raw talent there, but possibly a bit too much emphasis on raw, considering that Arsenal fans are frustrated and they want to be back in top four. I hope that if he comes, they're not expecting him to immediately be a Sanchez, because there is going to be an adjustment.
Yeah, but that's the worry, isn't it? Everybody is going to think. I mean, from what I'm led to believe, it's more like he's going to replace Theo Walcott than Alexis, if that's what happens. But I don't agree with you.
I could replace Theo Walcott.
Yeah, so good job, Danny. Yeah, I think it's fair to say 46 million euros is quite a lot of money. Just based on your thoughts, that's not something Bordeaux are likely to turn down, is it? I mean, I know they're playing hardball, and I think Michel Gourvenec has come out today and he's changed his stance a bit, hasn't he? It doesn't surprise me that the talk is that the bid has been accepted tonight, given the fact that he came out this afternoon and sort of said, well, maybe he could be there tomorrow, maybe he couldn't. It's kind of all gone a bit open.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, there seemed to be a lot of rumours over the weekend that he was here with his agent, so that sounded like it was well on its way. Then yesterday, the Bordeaux president said, no, definitely not happening. The coach today said, I'm taking it day by day, and Malcolm certainly has said that he is a bit interested. So I think it looks like he's on his way out. I'm surprised that Bordeaux are going to let him go now. I mean, I don't know if there's been any talk of maybe buying him and loaning him back for the rest of the season, because they won at the weekend and that takes a bit of pressure off, but they really are near the bottom at the moment. And as I said, at times this year they've been more or less a one-man team. So however much money, everyone's got their price, and in France the price usually seems to be less than elsewhere. But it's a big risk to lose that player. You'd have thought if he has a decent 2018 for the rest of the season, then that they could ask for even more in the summer. So I'm a little bit surprised that they're keen to sell now, but it is a lot of money. It's probably, I can't think of any Bordeaux sale that's approached that amount. And if he wants to go, then I'm not saying he's the sulking type. Every quote I've seen from Gourvenec about him is that he's a really good lad and has helped other Brazilian signings settle in, all that kind of thing. So I don't think he's a troublemaker. But if he wants to go and his heart's set on going, then I think Bordeaux probably are the type of decent club that will let him go. Yeah,
let him move on. John, what's your take on it? I mean, I know, as you said a few times this season, you haven't been able to pod with us as much as you'd like, so your eye's been off the European game a bit. But based upon what you've seen, I mean, I came up with a comparison in Richarlison in that he could go one of two ways. It could go the Richarlison way, which is quite a nippy winger who's got a lot of raw talent and a lot of sort of a lot of attributes that would work in the Premier League, but equally it could all go a bit Ben Arfa and slide off a cliff. But is it a signing that excites you? I mean, that the one thing that you would say is, like Jez said, his age suggests to me that it's a long-term signing. It's a signing that, if he does settle well, as we said pre-pod, it reminds us a bit of Reyes in that he's a player in January who could make an immediate impact, but we might get the best of in the longer term.
Yeah, I think the fit, like being honest, obviously I haven't seen much of the guy. I've seen little bits and pieces, like to watch YouTube clips, and you've sent me a few bits, Kris, as well. But like Jeremy said, he does seem very raw. Sven Mislintat had the history of trying to get him at Dortmund already, and he has a history of getting these types of players who he sees have got the ability to make that step to the next level. So I think that's a big tick in his favour as well. And I think it's something that Dom and a couple other people on the pod have said. This is kind of one of those. 40 million sounds like a lot of. It obviously is a lot of money, but because he's 20 years old, is his age, isn't it?
Yeah, 20 at the moment.
Yeah, because he's 20 years old. Okay, let's say the deal goes through, whether we'll get him now or loan him back or whatever. A couple of years' time, maybe it hasn't worked out. He's still only 23, 24. The talent's still there. The ability's still there. There's still going to be people interested in him. Is that a huge loss in investment terms? It's not really. And it's one of those kind of gambles at the moment where I think Arsenal have to make these kind of deals with 18 to 21-year-old players. Hope that they do pan out and improve and take that raw talent into actual match days and game-winning sort of plays and stuff. And if it doesn't, then you recoup as much of your losses as you can, and then try again. We're kind of like a Dortmund with more money at the moment, I think, is the way we kind of have to look at some of the signings we make. If we do say sign Aubameyang and it is the 50 odd million, that's the statement one to the we're replacing Alexis Sanchez kind of statement signing, which again I'm not sure makes sense, but it's the big name thing. But Malcolm, yeah, it sounds like a calculated risk, but it's one I'm happy to take, and it's a slightly different direction from what we've been doing in the transfer window recently. I'm sure he's a player who, regardless of if he goes 5 games and disappears or anything like that, he's going to get people off their seat a little bit more than, say, Mohamed El-Neni. No disrespect to Mohamed El-Neni, great squad player, and he tries his hardest and everything, but he's not going to make you stand up out of your chair and go, wow. From everything I've seen from Malcolm, he's it's like why Palace fans like Zaha and why you see players like that always get linked to big clubs, and can they make it? Can they do it? Mahrez is another one who's obviously at Leicester and probably has got the ability to. Mahrez would be like the safer bet of Malcolm, I guess. Like the older players, he's already got the Premier League experience. You've seen he can do it, that kind of thing. Malcolm might be able to do that. They're not exactly the same kind of style, but he's again just gets you up on your feet and excites people. So if it goes through, I'm happy. It's a good signing long term, again, regardless of the manager, whether he's here or not or whatever. I think for the club it's fine. If it doesn't work out a couple of years time, then you move him on and try and get back what money you can. The one thing I did want to ask Jez about actually is, if Arsenal do pull off the Malcolm deal, do you think it affects in any way Thomas Lemar and any deal happening there with Arsenal? I at the moment, obviously it seems extremely unlikely that it's in January, but there's a lot of talk still that it might happen in the summer. I
don't see why, because although Malcolm is left-footed, he has pretty much spent the whole of the last 2 seasons playing on the right. I mean, cutting inside a bit, but very rarely on the left-hand side. Whereas Lemar is the opposite. Can also play in the centre, but mostly starts off on the left. So there's no reason why they can't both play in the same team. That'd be a great team to watch. I'm very happy to watch that. But in terms of money, I don't know how much Arsenal have got to spare, whether they can afford them both. But there's certainly no reason why they couldn't play together. Lemar played brilliantly last season with Bernardo Silva on the other side. So
yeah,
players,
I'm sure they can find a way, make sure they're not sort of stepping on each other's toes.
What's your take on that situation, Jess? Because again, sort of the bits and bobs that we've picked up over the course of the last few weeks and months is that Arsenal stayed in touch with Monaco pretty much solidly since that last minute horrid attempt to try and prize him out on the last day of the window when it was clear Alexis was not going to be a well-behaved little boy. It seems that the messages you get from Leonardo Jardim and Rybolovlev are that Monaco would be open to business if the price was right, if the circumstances were right. Then they sort of go back on it. They're the quotes that we get, particularly in the French press, are very much that they are open to something. But it's gone quiet. That the clubs are still in fairly regular contact, as far as I understand it. But the deal, from what I can gather, the idea was that they wanted to try and talk again in the summer. But we've now got a World Cup coming. There's this whole new window for the Premier League where everybody's going to have their squad settled before the start of the season. So that limits time to get it done even more so. France, fingers crossed, could go deep in the World Cup this year as well, which could make it even harder. What do you think gets him or gets that deal done out of Monaco? And have you got anything to suggest that you think Monaco could be working behind the scenes to actually let him go in January? And a lot of this talk around Arsenal at the moment is a bit of a smokescreen. You know, the likes of Aubameyang, is it more of a smokescreen as they try and get something like Lamar done, or do you think in January Monaco would be nuts to try and sell him?
Same answer in a way. I don't think they should be selling him. Monaco are not having the best of seasons. Their position in the league is arguably a little bit flattering, which isn't surprising considering the players that they lost in the summer. But Lamar is one of those ones that remained, who were a huge part of last season's success. Leading up to Christmas, Rybolovlev and Jardim made it very clear that they said, especially now we're out of the Champions League, our squad is too big. We do want to offload some players, but Lamar was absolutely not one of the ones that was ever mentioned as being the ones to be got rid of. They've got rid of Mate and Congolo and players like that, but Lamar, again, I'm not saying non-negotiable, but especially for a club like Monaco, who, well, they don't have money concerns that Bordeaux may well do. They've proved the last 3-4 years that they're very happy to sell for the right price. So I do think Lamar will go in the summer, but they certainly don't need to sell him in January. And I would be surprised if he goes. The other thing, there's still a lot of interest in him, but he hasn't been having the greatest of seasons. I think possibly here everyone kind of remembers that he hit his peak when his name was every other tweet was about Lamar, and then that evening he scored a brilliant goal for France against the Netherlands. Since then he's also had a couple of injury niggles, and he hasn't really close to that sort of level yet. So I'm not saying other people are necessarily being put off him, but they might also be taking a wait and see sort of approach to it. I have to say, if he has to go anywhere, first of all, I'm not sure necessarily that the Premier League would be the best league for him. I think he'd probably thrive more in Germany or Spain. But if he was to go to the Premier League, I'm assuming Brighton can't afford him, then I'd certainly rather see him at Arsenal than Liverpool.
He wouldn't fit at Liverpool, would he? Not in what they've got now. I just never bought. He'll probably sign for him tomorrow. Now I say this, but I never ever bought into the idea that Liverpool were remotely in for him. He just doesn't. He needs to be a player that the club, any club that signs him, makes him the star he is and gives him the opportunity to thrive. And I think when Liverpool got particularly Salah and Mane, I just don't see where he gets into that side. But no,
I don't think he has enough gel in his hair to fit into this.
That's also very true.
Just out of interest, and I really hope he doesn't go to Liverpool, and I do hope we get him because he's a wonderful player. Has he got the ability to play the Coutinho type role? That would, if he can do that, would that not be why Liverpool would be looking at him?
Again, I think he can play sort of anywhere off the sort of front striker. He hasn't got a bad finish either, but he started off sort of looking like he was going to end up as a number 10. And at Monaco, it's turned out that he does spend most of his time on the left, but he's such an intelligent player, so comfortable on the ball. He can play pretty much anywhere, I think.
Yeah. just sort of that occurred to me that maybe that's what, if Liverpool are genuinely interested in him, then maybe that's where they're looking. Danny, do you want to go to questions? Because I think have we done every transfer story that's linked to Arsenal so far this window?
It's a bit odd that we've the David Luiz stuff has gone a bit quiet, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with that one, I think it was one of those that Arsenal made quite an early inquiry to Chelsea and then haven't followed it up. Seemingly, that's what seems to have happened. Johnny Evans is the other one, isn't it, as well? That's all gone.
We're not allowed to buy defenders or people who can play in midfield, Danny. Don't.
No.
We can only buy forwards.
I've just gone and spent chance inheritance on David Luiz wigs, and I was going to get a fortune on them.
We've got a couple of other quick fire players in French football that we can ask Jez about as well, if you like. Mm-hmm. But should we do some questions first, Danny, and see what people have got?
Yeah, I'm just looking through them at the moment. It's just mainly people arguing with Mr. Holick about stuff.
Shall I ask Jez one question while we ask people to put questions in the box?
Yeah.
Is that a good way of doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, Jez. Hypothetically, where's Nabil Fekir plays football next season?
He's another one that kind of, to me, always seemed like an Arsenal player. Again, I'd like to see him at Arsenal. Sorry?
It's tough, isn't it? Like, because as you say, he's a perfect Arsenal type player. But to put it this way, then make the question easier. Do you see him leaving Lyon in the summer, regardless of World Cup or not? Because we don't know if he'll make the squad at this stage. But he scored again yesterday. He's been head and shoulders Lyon's best player this season in a team of very high level performing young players. Is there any way that Olas keeps him, or does he move on regardless? I mean, is he even good enough to step into a Real Madrid, for example, because they're heavily sort of looking to rebuild their aging team? Is he good enough to play at that level, maybe?
I think he is. I think put better players around him, and yeah, I think he's got the capability to sort of step up a level. I think this is his last year at Lyon, but I thought that about Lacazette probably for the last 2 years, that he was still there. So, there is a bit of a pull there. He's a local lad, so he might find it hard to leave. But I could see him going. I could see him possibly at Barcelona. He's the sort of player that I think could fit in quite well there. Possibly he's thinking, by my time, this time next year, there's already talk of players. Everyone who goes in is supposedly a replacement for Iniesta when he retires. But a year down the line, they might need one more. Really fit in the sort of Barcelona style of play. I think he's got the ability to pretty much fit into any team that he wants.
Yeah, and we all love him, of course. Danny or John, then we've got a few questions coming in.
You've got any, John? I've been writing a few down. I say writing.
I'll put them all in the chat box, mate.
Oh, a few. I'm not even been looking. There's just one point. I've been looking at the chat window. One thing I wanted to mention is, first of all, there's a quote by friend of the pod, Jan Argafiortov. See, I can fucking say that.
Yeah.
Can't I say bloody Ingle Pingle Pong or whatever their bloody names are? He says, regarding a boomerang, he trained with Dortmund today, but my normal reliable source in Germany tells me, in quotes, yes, I think he will join the Gunners. Now, there are quite a few teams around the world that are called Arsenal. My money is on Arsenal Tula in Russia. That's the Gunners that he'll be joining. And I was just
I was just going to say, the one thing about this Aubameyang stuff, I think John was in the group that when it first came out, I think we all collectively went, bollocks, that's a load of old crap. I think the longer this has gone on, the more fire there is building. There's got to be something in this. I mean, whether we are being very clever and putting it out there just to keep other people busy with that story, I don't know. But there's definitely something in this, isn't there? It's just like John said earlier, I still don't get why we're going for a centre forward when we desperately need to replace a midfielder and probably look at defensive solidity and the fact that the Malcolm situation could essentially give you the wide player you need. It's just bizarre. But the more that the rumor mill turns, the more there's got to be something in this now. surely.
I just want to say my quick thoughts on the Malcolm thing. I don't want him. We're not the kind of club like City or Chelsea that can spend 40 million quid on a kid and leave him on the bench. If you come and join Arsenal, they're going to want results for that amount of money instantly. And this grabbing at Malcolm and Mkhitaryan and the boomerang and all this reminds me of the late days of George Graham when we bought Jimmy Carter, Pates, McGoldrick, Kiwomyu and Hartson, just going out there and buying players just because they were there because you might think they would fix the problem when the problem was the manager all along. So I would say to the board, just sack Wenger, just get a new manager in and then say, here's a lot of money, who do you want? And then we can go out.
I worry for you that I remember sort of 90s, early 2000s in Italy. It seemed like there was always Juventus, Inter, AC Milan. They were sort of buying players just to spite the other teams. And, the number of players that seem to end up playing for all 3, 4 of the big teams there. It seems like, I don't know, there's a few players that Liverpool, City, United, I don't know if they're all sort of coming in for these players just to wind you up, knowing that they seem to have a lot more money and can afford to do that just to take the piss. Like I said, I don't know what funds you've got available, but I'm not sure it is the same amount. With Malcolm, I think 40 million is ridiculous. But if you tell me is he worth 100 million less than Coutinho, yeah, of course he is. So I mean, he's worth, can't put it in good English, he's worth a hell of a lot more than only 100 less than, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just a mad market. It was already nuts, and then the Neymar deal and Mbappe and everything blew out of the water, and I thought, oh, maybe it's going to calm down a little bit after that, and then the Coutinho deal happens. That's just bonkers.
It's there's another little bit of, it's not breaking news, but Little Birdie, who, funnily enough, a lot of our ABW people know. I'm gonna. They have asked me to remain nameless.
For you to remain nameless, that's what we all want.
Yeah. The person I've been speaking to actually knows our Steve very well. But I'll just leave that one hanging. But he's basically messaged me tonight and said that the Alexis to United deal is done. And all this talk is around Chelsea and all that. Chelsea apparently come in very late, and it's pretty much all done and wrapped up. So make of that what you will.
He's out of their scene, isn't he? He can't get his own way with transfers, so
no,
I'll let him spend money.
No, and it looks, or it sounds like, from what said person said, it sounds like it's just a straight cash deal. So
yeah,
make of that what you will.
It wouldn't surprise me if Abramovich had just inquired late just to piss Mourinho off, because I don't think very much anymore.
Get the price up a little bit or something. Yeah, exactly.
Right, we've got loads and loads of questions from people. If anyone has any France specific ones, we will obviously ask them to Jez, because Kris doesn't know anything about France. We can't ask him.
Shut up. Jez knows more than me, to be fair, but yeah.
So we'll try and go through as quickly as we can, because we've been going for like an hour and a half or whatever already. And 2351, is a decent centre half more important at the moment to shore up the defence? I'll answer that one very quickly. I don't think our centre halves are necessarily the problem. I think our coaching is the problem. The fact that the midfield doesn't protect the defence. We might need defenders in the future, because Koscielny looks maybe Ban Jackson. I don't know how long Monreal can play on for. I don't think Mustafi's a bad defender. I think Callum Chambers and Holding are good prospects as well when they're decent. It's just the team's playing badly at the moment. It's just the way we play football. We don't have a structure off the ball.
Well, I'm half expecting Coquelin to come out and say he learned more about defending in the first hour at Valencia than he did in a decade at Arsenal.
It's just, I think that's more the problem at the moment. It's that kind of thing, and you can always get better players and room for improvement, but you could sign, a perfect example. Leonardo Bonucci is one of the best centre backs in the world. Goes from Juventus to Milan. He's in the same league, and he ends up being one of the main reasons that club is in a complete and utter mess at the moment, and they can't defend for toffee. When he went for 30 million, I was like, oh God, I know he's 30 years old, but that's a steal. That's unbelievable. And it's gone horribly wrong. And I'm laughing my ass off about it because it's Milan and not Inter. It doesn't matter how good the player is. You've got to have the right combinations and midfield and everything else. But yeah, it's it's something to look for in the future. Kris, you're optimistic, so I'll let you ask this. Josh Gunnar forever. Will we make the top 6?
Yeah, because I think we'll make top 4. So yeah, well, I do.
Told you,
I
Kris,
mean,
when you do this shit, start it with knock knock. At least people then know you're fucking joking.
I do. I genuinely do.
Top 4.
No, I do.
Well,
I
next
do.
season in the championship.
I'm always optimistic, as you know. But yeah, I do. I don't see the point of just looking at things completely negatively. I think to answer the customer. No, to answer. I've been at work too much. To answer
Putting you through.
Viewer. There you go. That'll do. To answer that person's question, yes, I think we'll be in the top 6 regardless. I don't think that'll be an issue in terms of top 6. But no, I actually do think we'll finish in the top 4. Liverpool on their day proved yesterday they can blow anyone, but they're also just as likely to go and lose at home to West Brom. Spurs are Spurs. And Chelsea are that clown car that you just never know whether the wheels are going to fall off or they're going to squirt water in your eye or speed off at top speed and disappear into the distance. You just never know. Even Man United, they are one Mourinho meltdown away from falling away completely. So, yeah, I don't know. As I say, I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think we could finish any higher than 4th. I suppose the other way around it.
You might as well, believe you.
No, I think Man City, obviously, like John said, are away in the distance. I think Man United and Chelsea, Man United and Liverpool, I think will be the harder 2 to catch. But I think Chelsea are beatable. I think Spurs are beatable in terms of the table. So yeah, I don't see why not. Or we could just go win the Europa League and make sure that's done. That would be the other option. One thing I would say is if we're in with a shot of winning the Europa League, say we get through Ostersunds, which we bloody should do. If we can get through Ostersunds and we can get through, let's say we get to the semi-finals, or actually even the quarterfinals, I would put far more emphasis on that competition than the league at that point. I'd say right at that point now you have to put all your eggs in one basket and try and win it, because there's Lyon, Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, although I watched them yesterday and they were awful, but there's a few big clubs in the Europa League that will be very tough, and Napoli in the Europa League now as well, John, aren't they?
Yep.
So I mean, there's a few good sides in the Europa League that we could come up against, and we're going to draw at least one of the biggies. So Atletico is the one I fear the most, as well as Napoli, funny enough. So yeah, I'd put all our eggs in one basket and try and win that. But you know what this Arsenal team's like. We're on our knees against Bournemouth, and then next week we'll probably go and beat Palace and go on a run of 6 games where we win 5, and everybody be happy again. But it all depends on who we've still got playing for us at the moment. We're running out of players, aren't we? So we shall see. But yeah, I think we can finish 4th.
People might as well get a hot cocoa, get their dinner ready if Kris is going to answer any more questions.
No, I just thought I'd go.
About to say that.
I just thought I'd go into a bit of depth on that one, because people just like, oh, what are you talking about? I thought, well, I'd explain my reasons behind it, but
I thought I'd wait for the book to come out.
Right, I've got one here for Jez, as we have a guest on. We have an expert, and this is from Metal Domain. Who is, I think, a new viewer. I'm not sure. He may have been in the chat box before, so I apologise if you have been. Asked about the availability of Draxler, whether now or probably more likely in the summer. Jez, what do you know about? Is he moving and is he going to fit? I don't know. I haven't watched much of PSG. I've just seen highlights of Neymar and Mbappe scoring ridiculous goals and laughing at Cavani. So I was like, I don't know where Draxler gets in that team.
He's actually playing a reasonable amount recently. So he's an Arsenal player in that one week he looks like well-beater, and the next week he looks like he can't be bothered, can't trap a ball or anything. He's a weird one because within the PSG squads, and they're all saying that they do need to sell in order to comply with PPF. Generally, it seems very clear there's this group of players that are definitely staying and this group that are definitely for the right price. And then there's Draxler and Di Maria, who most of the ones that are for sale aren't even getting much of a game. Since it's sort of come out that they're both for sale, they're both getting quite a lot of game time as well, and sort of using it reasonably well. They're actually both playing coming up with some decent matches. Draxler more than Di Maria, which I think probably isn't surprising. He's still sort of quite young, still got a little bit to prove. I saw the Draxler fan club today put out a tweet suggesting that you should vote for him for German Player of the Year. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, he's talented, but he's not going to go cheap. PSG are going to want a decent amount for him. I can't remember what they signed him for, but I'd have thought they'd want to try to at least
5, wasn't it? Because it was the same money that when the German team sold him, they'd only had him for a year or so, and they didn't make any money on the deal. I think roughly.
So I mean that's the kind of thing that to me doesn't particularly bode well. You know, he's a good player, but he doesn't seem the type of player that anyone absolutely wants to keep at all costs. And you know, the talent that he's got, he should be the sort of player that you're saying, right, you're going to be my number one starter for the next 10 years, and I'm going to build a team around you. The fact that this sort of quite quick succession that said actually no, we can do better isn't a brilliant sign, I don't think. Obviously, when you've got players like Neymar and Mbappe next to you, you're never going to be that player, but still, I like him. I think he's talented, but again, the position that you're in and what kind of thing you're looking for, I don't think you need him.
I mean, Arsenal fans have wanted him for so long now, but yeah, I mean, I think it's as a case with Arsenal is the players there if we want to spend the money. It's just whether we want to spend the money is usually the thing. Nikki Wilson asks, what date will Alexis leave us this January? He's already gone. I mean, not official, but I think he left like August last year, something like that.
checked out. Yeah, checked out. I did chuckle at our very own Mr. Collings. Did you see that he retweeted his tweet from, was it back in June or July at the Emirates Cup, where Alexis patted and kissed his badge when he was trotting around for Remembrance Day? I thought, oh, you sneaky little devil, Mr. Collings. Yeah, I wonder if
it hasn't he to his tweet.
Yes, yeah, I think he has. Yeah. Do you think maybe? Is this? Do you think to all of you? I suppose is this like a bit of a dominoes thing, in the Alexis going is what's going to announce all these other deals we're working on? Do you think that's, or are we?
Well,
I don't know.
If Aubameyang and Malcolm are happening, that's what, nearly 100 million. There's no way we're spending that money without selling someone.
No,
which has got to be Alexis, and also clearing wages off the books. Although saying that, Theo Walcott going is like 100-something grand a week off the books as well. So yeah, that's a big chunk. But yeah, I think all those kind of things. There's always, once one moves, then everyone else falls in line. And I'm sure once the Alexis one is announced, there will be other players announced. It wouldn't surprise me if, because Arsenal was so adamant that Alexis would at least stay to the end of his contract, and players honour their contracts and everything, and football's different now. That they are trying to either get Malcolm or Aubameyang, whoever, lined up and done. So the moment that Alexis goes, they can announce the other one. So there's not like a gap.
Good PR. Yeah.
Nice bit of PR for Ganella.
He loves that. He loves a bit of PR.
He can sit there next to Arsene and go, Arsene, shut the fuck up.
Just let me talk. Yeah. Is there any? Jez, have you had any information on how things are going with Debussy and St Etienne? Is that ongoing? Because that news broke sort of late in the weekend that they'd been having a little chat. Is there any other French clubs that are having a look at Debussy, or is it just St Etienne that are having a word?
Yeah, I saw that rumour today. I mean, that was the first I'd seen of any news for him. Saint Etienne seems to be relatively busy, and I think they're after a couple of other players first. So they're after Jan and Villa, who hasn't really covered himself in glory in most places he's been to. And who's the other one? Also a big ego. Paul George and Tep.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say Kalou then, because I mean, if it was Mvia and Kalou, that would have been two Arsenal legends.
Legends of the transfer window previous, yeah. Yeah, they got a Tep. That was finalised this afternoon, wasn't it? I think from Wolfsburg, is it? I think it's Wolfsburg.
I'm not sure if it's definitely done. I think it's only a loan anyway, but he's another one. I mean, he's been a bit unlucky with injuries, but his talent has never quite matched his ego, and maybe the fact that Wolfsburg didn't work out might help him in a way.
Yeah, true. That we shall see. So
But they do need a bit more in defence, and maybe once those two are done, that they might turn to Debussy.
And is there any talk in France about Olivier Giroud as well? Because obviously Marseille was sniffing last summer, and that didn't come to pass. He's currently injured, but as John said earlier on, and if Aubameyang in particular comes in, you've got a Lacazette, and you've got sort of and others, potentially Malcolm. There's not much room for Giroud, who sort of regular listeners would know, but people who maybe aren't regular wouldn't necessarily be aware. Giroud is very much a starter for France at the moment in Deschamps' mind, and could well be going into the World Cup, but he won't be if he isn't playing football. So is he sort of maybe? Do you think he maybe would push the need to move either back to France to get some games, or could you see him moving within the Premier League if he was to play for the rest of the season?
I mean, it could help him that Lacazette isn't starting for Arsenal or finishing anyway for Arsenal either. But I mean, Marseille was the only team that he's been sort of regularly linked with, and again, I assume because of the sort of status he's got and the wages that he's no doubt on, you can only really see the top sort of 3 or 4 in France being interested in him. PSG, I don't think are. Monaco, again, I don't think they're looking particularly to sign anyone at the moment. And I don't think Lyon need him either. So I think it's either Marseille or looking elsewhere. And Marseille have hit a bit of form. They do need a striker because Troy hasn't worked yet. Germain's just found a bit of form now. So there hasn't been much talk about it this month. There was a lot in January. There hasn't been this month.
No.
I can only assume that he's saving himself for Brighton.
Naturally, of course, yeah, along with all the others. And I mean, who would play in France at the moment, Jez? Seen as referees are kicking out at players now, so who would want to go and play in Ligue 1 at the moment? John, Denny, any others that we've got? Sorry, I've sideswiped you there.
Yeah, I'll try and get through some of these a bit quicker, and then we'll jump back to the French ones. We've got a couple more for Jez. Do you think both Alexis and Ozil could end up at Man United? I mean, yes.
Yeah, could.
Sadly, that would be really sad. There's. I mean, on Ozil, I'll just jump to the other. Wolfgang Hagar also asked, "Why is it so quiet on Ozil? Has he already agreed a Bozeman?" And there's a few other people as well asking about Ozil. It is weird that it's gone so quiet. I think we've spoken about before that as good as he is, there is kind of a lack of interest from clubs in him, just because he is that kind of player that he is so specialist. You kind of have to build your team around him, which at his age is a lot harder to do now. And we've said before how the number 10 role was adapted in the Premier League to Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva types who can do both sides of the game pretty well. Not that Ozil doesn't do that, but it's the defensive side of the game and sort of covering runners and that kind of thing isn't his best trait. But Mourinho likes him, really likes him, and he really played well under. I think Ozil's, best part of his career was at Madrid under Mourinho, probably. And funny enough, it was playing from the right hand side a lot as well, not through the middle. And as much as people say Alexis is a troublemaker, when you see Ozil and Alexis on the pitch together, it's often them two just playing, 1-2s between each other and ignoring everyone else on the pitch because they trust each other on the ball and can see the runs and everything else. So it wouldn't surprise me. I would be really, really upset if it happens. Seeing Alexis in a Man United shirt is bad enough, but if I have to see Ozil as well, that would be gut wrenching. Yeah. I hope not, but yeah, it could definitely happen. Right, where else were they? There was the other Ozil questions. Given the choice, would you rather have Malcolm, Leon Bailey, or Irving Lozano? If it was me, it's Leon Bailey, just because he's the player I've seen more of. Purely that. Lazy answer. Kris?
Who's Lozano, Bailey? Who's the third one? Sorry.
And Malcolm.
Oh well, obviously Malcolm. Again, like you, this is the player I've seen the most of. Lozano's got a glowing reputation, hasn't he? And he's the Mexican kid at PSV, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, glowing reputation. No, I think I'd not against the idea of Malcolm. When I first heard the story, I think the only thing that cheesed me off about the breaking of the Malcolm news initially was that people were talking like it had been done weeks ago, and it really hadn't. So it's moved quite quickly at this stage. So that suggests that we're putting our eggs in that basket. So no, I think he's the one I'd go with. Pavon's the other one, isn't it, from Boca Juniors?
Yeah, we got a question about him as well.
Yeah.
Danny, do you know who any of those 3 players are?
Can you say any of them?
Yeah, I've had them all on FIFA and they're all shit. That might be because, as Jeff keeps telling me, my formation is wrong. But my formation is symmetrical, and that's all that matters when it comes to football. No, never heard of any of them.
Jez, as an outsider, to a non-Arsenal fan, out of those 3, who do you think would be best if you had to pick one?
I have to admit, I don't know enough about Bailey and Lozano to.
Good answer. We like honesty on here because normally me and Danny just make it up. So.
Embrace not knowing. It's the future.
Yeah.
I don't know.
TK asked, is there any hope for Goretzka or is it gone now? I think he went to Bayern Munich a very, very long time ago. It's just not.
Yes, just not official. Yeah, he's another one they've hoovered up, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think that's done. Yeah.
Boyten Dio asked, this is for you, Kris. Try not to take too long because we are almost at 2 hours.
Okay.
How do you feel about Nelson, the Jeff, and Iwobi battling out for the now vacant wing positions?
Oh God, how can I answer that quickly? I don't think they're all battling out for those wing positions. It's the first thing I'd say to that. I think Nelson is a project, is a future player. I think putting any more pressure on him at this stage is wrong. So I rule him out of that. I think Iwobi's far better in a 10, which we're probably not going to see unless Mazza is.
Iwobi's far better in a tent.
In a 10,
that could be a good idea.
Oh dear. No, he proved yesterday playing from the right position. He can play a good pass and has far more effect on the game. John made a good point in our group yesterday. Actually, we said, when he carries the ball, he looks a lot better on the ball than he does in terms of his sort of stuck out on the wing, not really knowing what he's doing role. So, and who was the other one? Sorry, Welbeck was the other one.
The Jeff.
Oh, the Jeff. No, the Jeff, I don't think will make it at Arsenal. I'm sorry. I know he had a good night tonight for the under-23s. I think, yeah, I'd be surprised if he doesn't go on loan this month. I think he might go on loan. I think there's a few French clubs that are having a little look at whether they could get him in. I think a few Championship sides would have a look at him as well. Brighton, you can go down to Brighton for a bit if you like, Jez. But no, I think I said
Akpom went really well last year.
Yeah. When we signed the 2 from
You can have them again if you want.
Yeah, we walk him down for you if you want. I still think Yassine Fortune has got the better future at Arsenal than Jeffrey and Adelaide personally, but we'll see. But no, I don't think any of those are going to be immediate replacements for the people going out. They'll be longer term.
Yeah. Jimmy H29 asks, can any of these players bridge the gap to Lacazette up front? I think he's referring into those that we've been linked to. I think we kind of discussed the Aubameyang that he can play left, but he really is a centre forward. What, Jez, more for you? The Malcolm talk is the sort of the most current one. If he was to sign for Arsenal, do you think Lacazette would benefit from having him in the team?
I think he would. Lacazette isn't the greatest in the air. Malcolm is a very good crosser. I'm not sure his crosses could be slightly wasted on Lacazette, but Malcolm's just as good as sort of threading passes or chipping passes over the top for a player like Lacazette to run onto. So yeah, I think they could form a very good partnership.
Yeah,
and Malcolm coming in from the right, which is sort of what the at times when he was played wide, and they usually linked up very well. So yeah, I could see that working.
What formation's he deployed in at the moment, Jez? What formation are Bordeaux playing?
I think mainly a 4-3-3 with him wide.
Yeah, so he is the natural wide man of that 3, and aiming at a target man, because his crossing, as he showed against Troyes at the weekend, like you said, that goal, his crossing is very, very good, but he also likes a ping from distance, doesn't he? So
yeah, I should have added that. I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen any of him, just look up his goals this season against Lyon, Saint-Etienne, Dijon. Fantastic long-range shots, and Arsenal like to walk the ball into the net. This is definitely...
Yeah, Arsenal coached that out of him.
Yeah, that'll be straight out of him. Week
the one against Dijon in particular is the one I'd look up. That's an absolute howitzer. But yeah, he does take them on maybe when he shouldn't. Has to be said. They don't always come off, but when they come off, goodness me, do they come off?
I mean, it's the usual thing with YouTube clips. You only see the good stuff and not the ones that go wrong. That's why everyone.
Even I looked good on YouTube. I think once upon a time I looked quite good on YouTube, but yeah, not in this, I might add. Sorry, John.
Right, a few more questions and then we will wrap it up because we've done quite a lot tonight. No Limit Stunner. If Ozil stays and we get Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan and Malcolm, do you guys think we've done some good business? Especially since it's a January transfer window. Would love some defensive additions though. I mean, they're all good players and they're all good. It's good to have good players in a squad. It's just not necessarily the players we need, I think, is the issue. And again, going back to the defensive thing, I don't have an issue with if we did sign a centre back. There was obviously talk about Johnny Evans, who I know some people kind of poo-pooed a bit, but he's a title winner. He's a very experienced player. He can play in midfield as well, like screening a back four. He's very vocal. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad signing, but again, I don't think it's going to be something that would solve our defensive issues. But yeah, they're all good players, so it's always exciting when you see new players coming into the club. But I'm not sure it's going to fix everything. Another one from N2351. Danny, you can have this. Was Lacazette sold a lie when Wenger signed him, thinking he would be supported as a proper striker?
I wouldn't say sold a lie, but was told a mistruth. I think it was probably said to him that no player will expect to come into a club, and unless you're going to be a multi-million-pound player coming to one of the big teams, then they are going to play all the time. But I definitely don't think he's happy with the situation. But that's why the players we need to go out there and get is Fekir, the man who made him look wonderful at Lyon. And that's what we need. Fuck all these others off. Let's go and raid Lyon for him. You see that wonderful tweet that Lana did last week? He said Lacazette didn't leave Fekir and all that lot at Lyon for this shit.
I do feel really sorry for Lacazette at the moment because even I picked on him a couple of times, going, I'm not really sure. Is it going to work out? I don't know.
That's just to wind me up. That's all that was.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But even on the radio show, sometimes I've watched games. I'm like, is he going to work out in the Premier League? But then I look what's behind him, and I'm like, you've got Iwobi, who did the great ball to Bellerin, but then most of the time puts it out for a throw-in or something, and Welbeck, who can't kick a football. And I'm like, you poor bloke.
If only we had Sanchez and Ozil playing behind him. That's not a good idea.
Jez, can you just put everyone's mind at rest? Lacazette is not a £50 million flop, as I've read in some stupid website today. He's frustrated, isn't he? Because he's a goal scorer. That's what he does. That's his business. That is his go-to sort of skill, isn't it? He's a goal scorer, but he's a hard worker, a creator. He's far more than that. He's just not being deployed right, is he? He's not the Lacazette of Lyon at the moment, is he?
No, exactly. He's not. I mean, he's not a Giroud in that he's more mobile than Giroud. I'd still say he does his best work. He can make chances for himself and for others in the box. He's got the skills. He's got the strength. And the last couple of years, he's done it all for Lyon. I'm not surprised that there is an adjustment period. I think people were talking about him at Lyon for a long time before he really made it, and I didn't think that he'd sort of immediately be a 30-goal a season striker straight from the off. But he is a player that needs to be given a decent amount of time, support as well. But he needs to be playing 90 minutes week in, week out, to form an understanding. He is the kind of player who works well with the players around him, with 1-2s around the edge of the box, that kind of thing. And he'll score goals for you, but you need to give him a proper chance to bed in.
Yeah, I think we'll see the better of him next season, personally, or second half of the season.
He looked good at the start of the season when Ramsey was in the team, who is a player who likes to do the little 1-2s off and make the run of the box, which opens up space for him, doesn't he? And I think you've seen as well since Jack's come in, he did those couple of early balls when you've seen Lacazette loads of times looking and making a run and no one picks out the pass, and Jack did a few times. And hopefully we see a bit more of that. So yeah, I'd still give him time.
His movement's still there, isn't it? It's not like he's shying away from the ball or hiding. His
work rate is fantastic.
Mm.
He's superb, but he did look extremely miserable at the weekend.
He was quite fed up yesterday, wasn't he? Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. Right, a few more questions and then we are definitely done. No more. Stop it, chat box. Jimmy H29. Does the signings really make any difference this season? Why not wait till a new manager? I get your point. Yes, I agree. We need a new manager, but you still have to buy players. And when the new guy comes in, he doesn't want to have a squad that's even more of a mess than it is now. So you've got to do stuff for the future. It wouldn't surprise me if not all of them, but some, if not all, of these signings are from Sven's office and not from Arsen's. So it is future-proofing. Sorry, I don't know who put this question in. I forgot to put the name. Pavard, which I almost read as Pardew. Do you guys think he'd work for us? Which would be really weird. I'd love his little dance. But Kris, do you know who this Pavard guy is? I haven't seen anything of him at all.
Yes, and Jez probably knows as well. He's come to prominence at Stuttgart this season since he moved. He's been really well. I think it's kind of his breakthrough. I think he was there actually last season when they were in the Bundesliga 2. But yeah, he's been exceptional. He made his France debut. Was that against Holland as well, Jez? I seem to remember. Who was it his debut against?
It might have been the next round of matches. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a friendly, wasn't it, that he came on, and by all accounts, he looks good. But yeah, he's got terrible hair. Have to say that much. But no, he's a player that I really like. For what I've seen of him, so I haven't seen as much Bundesliga as I'd like to this season, but he's been very highly rated. He's shot to prominence. They love him in Stuttgart, and he's been a consistent performer there. Caught the eye and got into the national side. So I think the biggest problem he'll have is he's not going to get past them. TT. In fact, let's be honest, it's Deschamps. He's probably not going to get past Rami at this stage for the World Cup squad. But and there's people like Longley as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd add that he's quite versatile. And actually, I think when he played for France, he played at right back. Where France really do have problems. And I'd happily see him picked ahead of Sidibe, for example.
Or Jallet.
Or Jallet. He looks quite strong. He's a defender as well, and the fact that he sort of was a surprise pick for the front squad, and then actually I think possibly started a game or came on quite early and looked completely unfazed. I guess is a good sign that he's got a good temperament as well.
One to keep an eye on, especially with Sven in the background.
Thank you for whoever asked the question about Pavard. Apologies that I didn't catch your name. Metal Domain asked, do you think gut feeling Ozil is gone after the season? Would you all like Draxler, 2 centre-backs and a DM? We'd all love Draxler, 2 centre-backs and a DM. I'm not sure 2 centre-backs, maybe 1. I'd love a DM and I'd love Draxler. I doubt any of that's happening. Very quickly, do you think Ozil is gone after the season? Yes, for me. Kris?
No. Weirdly, no, I don't.
Oh, you are a strange boy. Danny?
I know.
No, I think he's comfortable. He just wants more money and that whole image rights thing.
Number 10 shirt,
from what I know. Yeah, and Jack can have the number 4. No, not yet. Maybe
Jez is an outsider. Do you think Ozil is just playing out the rest of his contract and going to get a nice big juicy signing on fee and go to a club where he might win some trophies?
I'm tempted to say he'll stay as well.
Wow.
I don't know if it's just because he's doing okay this season, so he looks a bit happier, but he looks like the type he can't be bothered to back up just to move house.
Quite happy. John, am I allowed the last question to give to Jez? Because I
There's like 2 more, and then you can do the last one.
Okay, you do those 2 first.
Yeah. Jimmy H29 had loads of questions tonight. Why are we not looking at a new keeper after Czech? Clearly is not what we thought he would be. I think that's kind of a bit harsh on Czech, to be honest. I think, yes, he's been a little bit iffy in some games, but if you go from the Chelsea defence and midfield protecting you for a very long time in the Premier League, and then come to Arsenal, and you have what we've got at the moment, you're probably not going to do great either. He's also got an idiot coaching him called Jerry Payton as well, which doesn't help either. I do kind of think it's always a bit odd, actually, when you think of goalkeepers that age. I'm like, Czech's old enough now. Does he need a goalkeeping coach anymore? Can't he just do the drills himself? But yeah,
I've heard Steve's a big fan of Jerry Payton.
Yeah, apparently so. Steve
really
is a
likes
very
him.
big backer of Jerry Payton. I think he wants him to be next manager. So
10-year contract, I gathered. Yeah.
Go tweet at Lord Hillwood and ask his opinions. Ben Beaver asks, whatever happened to the Nzonzi rumours? Sadly, it looks like they were just rumours. Well, I think we did maybe show some interest. We have in the past, but yeah, we're not allowed to sign midfielders that play in positions that we need.
Well, the latest is Inter, John. Interestingly, apparently they've had a little chat about it.
I've just giving up with sport in general at the moment.
I thought Seville changed manager and brought him back in, so he's a bit happier now.
Montella brought him back in, but apparently he still isn't happy with the wage and the contract situation or something. I don't know, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed.
Will give him silly money. They'll give it to anyone. No nickname required. If we sign both Aubameyang and Malcolm, does it mean our interest in Lamar is over? No, it doesn't. And if you've come in late, Jez talked earlier about Lamar really, really well, and the fact that we could quite comfortably play with Malcolm and Lamar, and Lamar is good enough to basically play. Well, I mean, he's good enough to play pretty much any position in our team at the moment, but he's good enough to play in any of the attacking positions. Whether he moves or not is a different thing. We asked about Draxler. Right, 2 quick ones for Jez, and then Kris, you can ask your last question. Jez, so got 2 for you. Good up-and-coming goalkeepers in France that could join us, and also, does Rabiot still want to leave PSG?
Goalkeepers, I mean, the obvious ones that spring to mind, I think, are Lopez at Lyon, who's not even sure he's that young anymore, but he's been consistently very impressive for them the last 3-4 years. And then Albon Lafont, who's probably still only about 12 or something at Toulouse. They're second bottom at the moment. They're sort of perennial strugglers, even if they stay up. I mean, he deserves better than them, I think. So they're the obvious ones, but I need to be careful. I've got a friend who supports Arsenal. Every time he sees me, he has a go at me for telling him that Ospina was a good keeper. So
you're not alone, Jez. I keep banging this drum, and I get the piss ripped out of me every time.
You know what? This season, I've grown to love Dave the Bin Man even more, and despite the fact he has no neck. And he stands a yard behind his line when he saves shots and stuff. He's a very good shot stopper. And he's got this amazing habit of whenever he makes a save, he always gets an injury, he dislocates a finger, or he goes down, he time wastes.
Oh, he's always done that.
And the way we're playing at the moment, the more time wasting we can do, the better. It's great, because we're more likely to get a result then.
Bin Man Dave.
But to be fair to Bin Man Dave, in the games he's played, he's generally been our best player. And I'm not sure what that says about us, but yeah, he's done well this season, so I'll give him a break.
Yes.
I think that is all the questions from the chat box. So Kris,
and Rabiot's not leaving PSG anytime soon, by the way.
Rabiot's not leaving at the moment because he's in the team, but as he misses one match, his mum's going to be on the phone to every other club in Europe.
Yeah. Okay. When he loses place to Los Celso or someone.
Okay, so just quickly on Rabiot before Kris asks the last question. Is it a case of he's the whinger if he's not in the team and would actually try to force a move, or is he just like Ainsley Maitland-Niles and his mum's really scary and shouts a lot at people?
I think it's his mum.
I don't think we could have 2 of them at Arsenal.
Perhaps we could get you.
Ground would be a nightmare.
Perhaps we could get you over there to sort out Mrs. Rabiot, John. You've got skills in that department.
That's not nice, is it?
It's fair, ultimately. My last question I wanted to ask Jez was just from a selfish point of view, but I know he's a player that, John, we've talked about a lot, and all of our group were quite excited about in the summer when it looked like we were actually just maybe going to address our gaping hole in the centre of our midfield. Jez, Jean-Michel Sarri didn't get his move to Barcelona. He was very open about the fact that he wanted that move. It didn't happen. He stayed. He had a bit of a wobble in form, then he found his form again. What happens with him next? He's obviously not going to go to Barcelona now. Is he still likely to leave Nice probably more at the end of the season? And does he go to a big club? Because to me, he's just absolutely ready-made for Arsenal right now. Surely he'd be at PSG if they didn't have to fit the FFP issue, which is probably why they're going to get Lassana Diarra instead. But he's just the absolute perfect player for Arsenal. Why is nobody interested in Seri? Even Man City apparently were having a look recently.
Yeah, Julien Laurence reported today that apparently his people have been chatting to Man City. As someone replied to me, well, how's he going to get into that team? I mean, he's definitely good enough to get in that team, but they've got a hell of a lot of talent in midfield there. I think he'll stay till the summer, and then I think he's absolutely definitely off then. I mean, the club said you can go last summer. It didn't work out just because depends what story you believe. It didn't work out at Barcelona. I could see Barcelona still being in for him. He is the sort of player that could fit exactly into that team. Obviously, the way Guardiola plays, he could fit into Man City as well. Frankly, he could fit into any team. So, yeah, I mean, he would fit into the Arsenal mould as well as anywhere else. But and he can do a bit of everything. He can tackle. He can be the sort of box to box. He can be the number 10 pulling the strings. But from an outsider's point of view, I still think you still haven't replaced Gilberto Silva, and you need a proper defensive midfield holding player. And I don't think Seri's that. I mean, Seri could be that, but I think it's a complete waste of his talents.
We've only been saying we haven't replaced Gilberto for what, John, 10 years now, ish, something like that. So
I mean, normally people just skip over Gilberto and go Vieira instead, but yeah.
Gilberto's the one, isn't it? Ironically, Lassana Diarra was probably the closest we had at the time, but then he was obviously a bit of a knob and forced his way out of the club. But yeah,
he was probably... he played him fullback.
Well, that didn't help. He said
he was a better player than we valued him at, and to be fair, he did end up at Real Madrid, so he kind of proved Arsenal wrong.
Kind of had a point there, yeah. There was a little bit of suspicion about his attitude not being brilliant, has to be said, but yeah, he was the one that got away at the time. But hey ho, he's off now. He's off to PSG for a lovely old time, it seems. So yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that one.
Shall I wrap this up then, Danny?
You can do that if you want.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a lovely quote here from Ross, who is Kris and mine's pal from the Football Hipsters. If you'd like to go and watch that, it's a very good podcast about all things European football. But before I give you that, Jez, just want to say thank you very much for coming on tonight. Really appreciated it.
Pleasure.
Where can people find you on Twitter, so you can be harassed by Arsenal fans asking questions about players they want to sign?
So my personal account is Jeremy Smith 98. I co-run the French FT Weekly account with Rich and Phil and Kris hosting our pods as well.
Lovely stuff. We'll pop that in the chat box as well for everyone, so they can give them a follow, and I'm sure Danny will do a little retweet off our account. So make sure to give Jez and all of the French guys a follow. They've always got good info, and they know what they're talking about much more than Kris does anyway.
Knew that was coming.
But little quote from Ross, and I really like this. It's great. I'm fairly confident Wenger would retire if he ran out of strikers to convert to a winger. Some people build ships in bottles, other collect stamps, but Wenger tried to turn perfectly good centre forwards into wide men. Ross, it's beautiful, and honestly, that convinces me that we must be signing Aubameyang. It's now just a question of which one's playing on the left, him or Lacazette.
When you say on the left, you mean left wing back, right wing back, not?
Yeah, of course. So I couldn't think of a better way to end the show. Thank you very much for watching. It was a bit impromptu, and I know it was a bit of a surprise. Everything else is back to normal though, Danny, isn't it? Normal pod and radio shows and everything else.
Yeah, radio show on Wednesday. I'm not sure who's on it. And then the normal podcast on Thursday. And I think it's going to be Simon Collins, Mr. Goonaholic, maybe Jeff Arsenal, so he can come on and go, it's all right, there's not a problem. As we're
I forgot what he looks like. Well,
no one knows what Jeff looks like.
So do you see he missed his flight the other day and he had to stay another night in wherever he was?
Oh, bless him. How's he cope?
My heart bleeds.
There we go.
Oh dear, yeah.
Perfect way to end it. Mr. Holic, always the voice of reason. Aubameyang on the left, Lacazette on the right, Giroud through the middle.
Happy days. What more could you want?
Press the button, Danny. Let's get
Thank you very
out.
much, everyone.
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Later.